Oh, hey, Harold.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
How are we here? Is this
Um,
Daskalos?
Probably. I've been through this a few times.
Wait, where the heck am I? Oh, hey Yoda.
Oh, hey, Millie.
Oh, hello.
Hello, I'm Harold.
Where in the world am I? Why are we in a schoolroom?
Hey everyone, sorry I'm late. We have a new person today. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Uh, is that me?
Yep.
I'm Millie. Hello. Where am
Hello.
I? Hello.
We are going to be doing an archaeology challenge.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, let me give you
Sweet.
some quick rules for this challenge. Number one, no collaboration. So don't go and talk to each other or go to each other's sites. Everything needs to be semi-realistic. So, maybe don't go into spectator mode and look under the ground. Once
Okay.
you are to where you are at, you will be within 100 blocks of the ruins. Please ignore all wool blocks, because that's kind of how I built the thing, so I might have missed a few. You will excavate the site, you will rebuild it the way you think
Oh.
it should look, and you will interpret it.
Nice.
At the end of building it, you will give me a tour, and I will grade you how well you've done.
Oh no, grades.
We're being
Aw.
graded on this?
I'm gonna
I'm taking
fail.
a test. How do I get out of here?
It is a
Well,
school.
There's no escape.
Oh no.
So, to give you an idea of what I'm going to be grading you on, it's going to be on 4 criteria. One is going to be the site completion. So, if you were to, if you've adequately excavated the entire thing, the footprint of the site, or of the buildings, I should say, and the layout of those buildings. So, that's different. Those are 2 different things. Footprint
What-
will be, of course, the shape. So, if it's a big, giant, empty rectangle versus a rectangular hotel, obviously those are 2 different things.
Okay.
And the final thing is materials. If you get the materials correct, I will of course give an extra point to whomever gets the interpretation the closest.
Oh.
So, does everybody understand this challenge?
Yes, and once we're done, we get released, right?
We do get to go back home to our own servers, right?
Absolutely.
Can
Does
I
anybody
keep
have
this,
any?
Can I keep
Oh,
this outfit, though? This is pretty cool.
Oh.
Sure, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I have a cool outfit too. Neat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
I think it sounds like a great idea.
Yeah,
I
this
do,
sounds
too.
awesome.
Yeah. No questions?
No, I don't have any
Great.
No, I don't think so.
See ya.
Oh, where are we? Oh, at least we have somewhere to sleep. This is great. And a little campfire. Okay, let's figure this out. Okay, so here we are. This is our site. This is where Daskalos transported us to. So I have not looked around at this point at all, but I wanted to cover a couple of things just to set expectations. So I'm going to film this one a little differently than normal, as you would maybe expect. Normally, I create all my own builds, right? And then I will overlay audio, and there's time lapses, and there's, me not really talking off the cuff very much. Have a specific point A, point B, point C, right, that I'm going down. This is clearly going to be different because I'm going to be learning just like you guys as I go. I know nothing, so I think it's going to be super fun. But expect the editing to maybe be a little different. Expect the voiceover to maybe be not as precise as normal. The other thing is I'm going to be popping between creative and survival. I'm going to be grabbing things like pickaxe, shovels, any kind of materials I would need. I'm going to try and follow as much as possible standard, practices from I remember from way back when I used to work as an archaeologist. But keep in mind, I'll zoom in for this one. That was like 20 years ago, so I'm really rusty. So I'll be curious to see what I remember, and I've probably forgotten in those 20 years more than I ever knew. So, maybe remembering false knowledge, who knows. But I'm going to give it a go. I think this is going to be super fun, and I just right off the bat want to appreciate Daskalos for for putting this all together. Now, the other thing I want to say is I'm not sure how many episodes this is going to be. I don't know how many episodes Oda or Milly's is going to be. But at the end, my understanding is that once we're done and we have an interpretation, we're going to contact Daskalos and then walk him through our site, giving him what our site interpretations are, and also rebuild the site. But I think I'm going to grab some supplies and maybe create a board, somewhere, maybe over here where I can start taking notes that you guys can see as I go. Again, no idea how many episodes, but once I start releasing these, we'll have all finished all of our excavations and our interpretations. So yeah, so any suggestions you guys maybe have in the comments, I'm obviously not going to have seen. So, but yeah, hopefully this is fun for you guys. I think it'll be cool for you guys to see, in my case, a former archaeologist excavating a site that an actual working archaeologist created, and in the case of Oda and Milly, what their interpretations are. But enough of me trying to lower your expectations, and I'm just going to stop procrastinating and get right into it. Okay, let's start doing our thing. Create map. Okay, so let's grab some supplies. Have a map. Let me quick pop that up. Oh, I'm right on the edge. So was Daskalos thinking about how the map would end up? Is that a clue? I think some of this is going to be trying to get into Daskalos' mind, as scary as that might be. I forgot to mention there's a glitch on the server. If you click on certain things, they go away forever. Oh. So be careful when you make maps of the site. Okay. Good to know. Okay, he did say it was 100 blocks, right? So it should be somewhere 100 blocks from the campsite. But I don't know if it is. Oh yeah, so it is. And that went away. So he is 100% right there. Okay. So let's do this. Let's put 2 more here. And let's maybe first off get a lay of the land for what the current state is. Okay, so my intention here is to, in the 100 blocks around here, to walk up and back and up and back and create a grid of sorts. Maybe do something like that every maybe I'll start with 10 and just look around, just literally do a field survey just like you normally would. I have no idea if Daskalos is like put, let's say, let me grab an item frame. Like, I don't know if he's done something like this to be like, here's an item frame and there's just like a flint. Obviously that's a chain, but let's say like this is a flint thing or some artifact. And then that helps tell where the site is, and it's just purely below the ground. I don't know if there's going to be some structure sticking above the ground. I don't have any idea. So I'm going to assume that Daskalos is going to be tricky, or at least tricky to me. And then I'm going to treat this, and I'm going to do a site survey, and I'm going to look around, because even if, let's say, we find a site here, for all I know, he said it's the site's within 100 blocks of our area. For all I know, he put another little small site here, another site here. I don't know how contiguous this site is. There are some things on the ground here, so maybe as I'm walking around, I'm going to be paying particular attention to some of this stuff. So maybe the site is, what would that be, to our left? What direction is that? East. So let's maybe do this and just say north, so I don't have to keep pulling that up. Okay, so I've created 2 maps, and I'm about to start my little field survey. So let's get this going. You know what? Maybe I'll do a rough, you know what? I said I was going to go up and back and up and back. I wonder if I shouldn't walk over this direction. What would that be? Yeah, this direction, and try and collect these other maps first. Let's see. That would be south. Let's head south and then collect these 2 maps and then see what that looks like. Maybe there's an obvious site somewhere, and I don't want to spend all my time going through all of this area if there's an obvious site here. So let's see what we got here. So we got horses, we got sheep, we have chickens. Oh my. Okay, oh, and there's a big lake. Oh, we're on a little peninsula. That chicken kind of scared me a little bit. So we're on a little peninsula here. Interesting. Nice. Getting a lay of the geography. I love it. So snow over there. Yeah, I think maybe what I want to do, and I keep kind of going back and forth on what I want to do. So sorry if it's jarring for you guys. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along, like I said. But he said it's 100 blocks from that campsite. So let's maybe... That doesn't look like 100 blocks from the sea to that campsite. Maybe it's 100 blocks from the sea behind me there in the distance to the north in the campsite, but maybe not. I don't know where 100 blocks is from there. So let's maybe figure that out, I would think. So let me put something here. So that's 100 blocks to the north. And let's figure out 100 blocks in the other directions. Yeah, there's sheep, cows. This is pigs. We literally have all farm animals and in plentiful supply. Now, again, I don't know how much to read into Daskalos' site selection and whether or not that really matters or not. I might be overthinking things, but Daskalos is tricky. So I'm not actually at the sea. That's interesting. So I thought 100 blocks was going to take us to the sea, but I'm not quite there. So this, I mean, it would make sense for it to be a port town. So, I don't know. People oftentimes live near the sea, so I would expect it to be here, I suppose. But maybe there is stuff up on the high ground. So, and I'm just marking off the site here, 100 blocks around, like Daskalos said. Not really looking for artifacts or really doing a site survey at this point. I'm just roughly marking out the area. Let me make it even over here. So I do think that I'm going to... actually look to see what's out there closer to the shore, because there may be docks or something like that. I don't think that anyone would be settling in this valley. So the reason why I don't think anyone would be settling in this valley is this. So people tend to not live in super cold ways. So how it would work from a climate perspective is all of the warm air would rise, all of the cold air would sink, and so anyone living in this valley would perpetually be in a state of being super cold, because all of the cold would essentially pool at the bottom. Now, maybe that would be a little different because of these lower areas, potentially, because they're so much lower. Maybe the cold would then just like pour down. But you got to think a little bit of hot and cold like water almost, where there's a pooling action, right? Where the cold's going to come down off the slopes, come down, and then pool maybe in this area here, and then come down there. So I wouldn't think that there's actually going to be actually settlements there. Okay. So my lines aren't even. Doing shoddy work here, but this in theory is where my site is. My site is in theory in this area right in here. Okay, so not directly in the valley. Man, I would expect there to be something here too, maybe a harbor. This would be a great little Minecraft area here. This would be fantastic. Oh, is that blocks right there? Okay. So it might actually be outside of my area slightly. Okay. I wonder if this isn't the site right here. So we may actually, I think what we might do is push this out a little bit more. So let's see. We don't really have room on this map. Okay. Let's actually go back down to base and then Yeah, let's go down to base. I'm seeing something there. Let's actually swing by there on the way. My guess is this is a little tell or a little hill. I suppose this wouldn't be the right landscape for a tell, but I'm not really sure where I am. But this is... Oh, I'm in a hole. My guess is this is little clues here. Not a lot of grass, right? So it looks more disturbed. I'm seeing some visual things here. It's got some dirt built over it. So I think what it is, you know, decent location for a harbor, right? Little bit of protection in a peninsula. Makes sense. Oh, I'm in the hole again. Yeah, I like this. I like this as our site. So let's pop down here and look at it. Okay, so this is slightly later me, and I realized that I didn't really explain why the grass maybe not being in this area was suspicious to me. Now, there's really two reasons for that. One is I look over here, there's lots of grass, and then there's kind of a line, a demarcation, where there's not a lot of grass. Maybe someone ran around with bone meal and kind of plopped a couple of grass things places, right? So from a gamification perspective, I could see where Daskalos maybe used World Edit or something like that, just from a Minecraft perspective, and dropped this in. So that's one reason why it's suspicious. I mean, look at that kind of hard line there, right? So that looks fairly suspicious, line between grass and no grass. But the second reason is really from an archaeological perspective. So there's, and I've touched on this in past episodes, so I'm not really going to go into huge depth on this, but there's such things called crop marks, and which essentially is more or less the principle that grass is going to grow better when there's good soil underneath it, and it's going to grow, or not even just grass, but any plants are going to grow worse when there's less solid dirt and or good dirt underneath it. So for example, if this area over here is just low grass and not a lot of tall grass, and over here there's much more vibrant grass, right? That is usually an indication that this area over here has undisturbed soil where the roots can grow down and be, you know, you're going to get a better plant. And then in this area over here, not so much, because maybe those roots are being affected by either disturbed soil or potentially structures underneath it. So that's also from an archaeological perspective why I think this area over here that I'm jumping up and down on is likely an archaeological site. So wanted to explain that a little bit more. Ooh, and I'm seeing some white stone. Yep, this is 100% not natural. Well, it's hovering. So yeah, I'm thinking this is our site. Okay. I'm not going to make super assumptions here, though. I'm pretty sure this is our site, but let's... this is probably the area I'm going to focus my field survey on, my site survey. But let's put these maps on the board. Okay, so I flew around 100 blocks around the site. This is where we're focusing on. And let's look. Let me zoom out here, and then I'll zoom in so you can see. Okay, I think, based on what I'm seeing here, I was talking about how I don't think that there's any site there. Over here, it's slightly outside of the range that we were told to look in, and it would be a big pool that would get the cold air. So not there. I would think there's maybe a watchtower or something here. Right, this would be a great port. We're kind of on this little peninsula. I guess this is the peninsula part, but we're on two shores. This is a great place for a site, right? Not right up on the coast, and not, you know, so, but I would expect there to be docks or roads or something like that. These caves are a little bit weird. Maybe this would be earthquake or sinkholes. I don't know. It maybe speaks to some underground geology issues, right? But if you look here, where is there no grass, right? I think that this is maybe the area of the site is specifically in this tell or this little hill, this ridge mound here. So I think I was only going to do a site survey out to this line. I actually think that I'm going to push my site survey out to this area. So yeah, I'm going to fly out there in creative quick drop some other pillars there, and then I'll leave this stuff here. I probably will remove this one, but I'll leave these little indents here to show where they used to be, and maybe extend it 1 or 2 more blocks. But I'm going to put one kind of way out in this area, kind of by where the pumpkins are, I think. So let me do that now. Okay, so this other area over here is, as I kind of talked about, as I was up on those hills over there, I was kind of conjecturing that maybe there would be something up on this peninsula out here, and how this would make a nice little harbor. So I do want to spend a little bit of time. I don't necessarily think that there's a site here. You know, I'm looking along the coastline, and it's pretty steep, so I'm not seeing any kind of natural harbor here. But before I kind of focused in and narrowed in there, I did want to take a moment. A thought occurred to me that if this area right here is a settlement of some sort, okay, that's right near the coast, okay, I was looking maybe for docks or a port or something like that when I kind of did my initial run around putting these areas in place to demarcate where Daskalos said how near the site was to the main camp. But it might be that there's shipwrecks, right? I mean, if there's a settlement here, I don't know if we're going to find evidence of a port, and we're going to go along the coastline, maybe on that north side, not looking like there's a port or a place to dock ships here. I mean, this looks all pretty rocky or steep. So I'm not seeing anything here on this east side, but there might be something on the north side, which I'll check in a moment. But along this east side, I'm just going to quick jump in the water and then see if I can see any shipwrecks here. Okay. I checked all around the north side here. Doesn't look like on the north side there's a natural harbor either. At least not super close to the site. Goes down a little bit. The cliff isn't so deep here. You know, over here actually would be a decent harbor area, but that's way outside of. Yeah, none of this I think makes sense. That's too far away. But yeah, I really like this area as a harbor. Man, this would be a great little city. Yeah, I think right in here is where I would expect to see. Yeah, so the reason why I'm thinking this harbor, so it'd be protected from storms, right? So this area would be calmer seas than the area out there, which would be more ocean. And then, you know, you could put. Well, I'll answer him in just a moment. But yeah, you could put some defense towers, you know, watchtowers, lighthouses, and then really protect this harbor area. So I'm about ready to do my site survey. So I have soul torches, so I think I'm gonna drop one of these down so I kind of have a visual of what line I do, so I don't start drifting right and left. And then if I see an artifact or something suspicious, I'm gonna have a little redstone torch and I'll drop that on it, and then afterwards I can kind of circle the areas and the site with maybe some redstone dust is kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of go up and back and maybe do this little bit in a time lapse here. Now this is suspicious right here. You can see some world edit artifacts here, some hovering grass. So yeah, you can see you can see what's been added here. If I crouch, you can see it up in the sky. So yeah, some artifacting from world edit. Let's see, where did I? Oh, I gotta drop a flag. Forgot to do that. So I'm not seeing really any surface artifacts. So, you know, maybe this area wasn't plowed, you know, in history to really churn things up potentially. I'm not sure what the history of this area is. You know, normally if I'm walking fields, for instance. Yeah, let's go 5 more down, 5, 10 more down. Yeah, so if I'm walking fields, for example, I maybe you'd see not at the top of the slope and some pooling at the bottom. You'd see kind of up in this mid area here. You'd see maybe some artifacts potentially, as you know the rain would come down and start washing and eroding this top bit. exposing some artifacts, but the artifacts then are going to start washing their way down the hill and then pool in a low area. So yeah, I'm not seeing any artifacts around there. So it's possible that Daskalos just didn't put like item frames with artifacts out here, but I want to check all the same. Let's see, this is interesting. I'm gonna flag this. I don't know that this is anything. I don't know if this is sus gravel or not, but I'm not seeing gravel anywhere else here, right? So this is a little bit unusual. So I'm just gonna flag that. So really, we've just found two areas here. We found this gravel area, just to kind of summarize. We found this gravel area right here is one of the two areas, and we found this area over here. Where did that go? Oh, yeah, over here is kind of second area. This clearly is not I wouldn't say native stone, but this is unlike any other stone in this area that I've observed so far, with clearly some grassless areas, or at least this long grass, not here. No long grass over here. So, and then this area here, from a Minecraft perspective, kind of looks like someone ran by and bone milled. And then you can see hovering grass. I'm not talking from an archaeological perspective. You're not going to see hovering grass like that, but you're going to see that in Minecraft when someone's using World Edit. So, okay, the other area, before I start doing maybe test trenches or shovel tests, so that was a you know, like a site survey I just did, right, to try and figure out where the site is and plan out where I want to excavate. The other area I want to look at is this area over here, just to make sure that there's nothing over here. I'm just going to hover over. Hopefully none of you think hovering over is cheating. Maybe I'm using a drone. I think drones are in bounds for modern archaeologists. Yeah, I am not seeing anything unusual there from a site perspective. Nothing on this hill here that I'm seeing that's unusually archaeologically. I may still put a couple shovel tests in there, or maybe a test trench potentially. So beyond drone work, like I was saying, I mean, it wouldn't, I don't want to say uncommon, but it's archaeologists do use aerial surveys. So for instance, whether they're renting a little plane or something like that, depending on where you are and your available funds and how important the site is that you're looking. Yeah, it wouldn't be unheard of for archaeologists to use like an aerial survey. So honestly, me hovering over like this, I mean, yes, I'm in creative, and I'm going to switch over into survival here in just a bit, but this wouldn't necessarily be I don't think considered cheating. So, yeah. Okay, so I've completed the site walk. I've completed kind of looking around and looking at the landscape and determining where I think the site is, and I've talked a little bit about that. Even did an aerial survey, so kind of flew over. You guys saw me hover over there, and I kind of chatted through my thoughts around that, and why there's grass or not grass. So we've talked about a number of things here, but I wanted to kind of lay out what my thoughts are. I've been thinking about how I want to do the actual excavation. I think what I'm going to do is lay out a grid over the site, and I'll probably do that in redstone. And so I think what I'm going to do is lay out a grid, a 10 by 10 grid over the whole thing, from like wherever I've marked out in the blue areas, with the blue concrete. Mark it out, and then I'll then figure out, let's say, here, let me actually demo this here so you can see. So I'll lay out my little grid. So let's say this goes 10. Okay, so there'll be a whole bunch of squares around the whole site, and then I can continue to excavate in each square. So let's say this is square 1A, this can then be 2A, this can be 3A, and so on, however high we are. And then the next square up, so if this is 1A, this next square that's going to come up, so let's say this is coming up to here and then over, right? And so now this is the 1A square, and this is going to be 2A, and then 2B, 2C. So then essentially I'll have a whole grid, 1A, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, etc. over the whole site. And then I can have maybe a chest of the material I've pulled out corresponding to each, and I can then have a sign. That way, you know, I'm going to try and keep a field book as much as possible so I can reconstruct when I'm, you know, not having to remember every single detail. And so then I can figure out what's in what and then see kind of where, and I can reconstruct the site. So that's kind of my thought. And then when I excavate down, so let's say I break these blocks, I think I'm going to leave where this line is so I can see where all of my grid is. And I may end up just leaving the skeleton of the original surface, but that'll at least let me see once I'm done where the terrain originally was. And I may at some point knock that out, but that will at least be able to let me tell how tall the original surface was, and then I can count down, because I really don't know how Daskalos has done the stratification or anything like that. You know, how many layers of soil or anything like that. So I want to be able to reconstruct it as much as possible, and it'd be nice to be able to just do it in a way I can visually see it while playing, instead of having to jump back out and looking at replay mod. So that's my strategy. And then I also plan on, you know, it looked like, I can't remember if this is sus gravel or not, but let's assume for a moment this is sus gravel, and he's hidden artifacts in the sus gravel. So I'm obviously going to use the archaeology brush and brush this out, and I think I'm going to do what I did when I excavated my trail ruins episode, whatever that was, a year and a half ago, whatever that was when the trail ruins originally came out, and then replace the sus gravel with a clear glass block, and then put an item frame on it and put the artifact I would have gotten out of it into that space. So then visually, as I'm excavating, I can see exactly where the artifacts came from, and then I'll be able to then map what grid they came from, and then keep the site really organized to be able to then, when I'm doing my interpretation, talk about it in detail. And then as I go, I'll be able to then update this map. So this will be my active map that I won't lock, and then these maps here I'll lock, but I'll periodically, I don't know, I'm not sure how deep this site is, but whatever makes sense, whether it's 2 blocks down, 10 blocks down, whatever that determination looks like based on what I'm seeing off of either the test trenches or the shovel test, then I'll have updated maps. And so then I'll have then different map groups. So you can see I have 3 quadrants, or three map groups, and I can obviously extend this however long it makes sense. So that's my strategy for excavation. We'll see if it works, and let's give it a go. Okay, so all of my grid lines are all put out there now. Boy, am I tired. I've learned a couple of things here while walking around. I really don't like putting redstone grid lines in Minecraft. That was super boring. Hopefully it wasn't as boring for you guys. But I think it's actually worth it because it'll help us organize the whole site instead of just guessing willy-nilly where to dig and all that stuff. And then essentially we could talk about where things are in an organized way. So I think it was definitely worth it. The other thing I learned is that I really have trouble counting to 10. Did you see how many times in that time lapse I messed things up? I mean, there was some over there and right behind where my head is that I was way off by a couple. So maybe I just got distracted. Who knows? But yeah, counting to 10, not my strong suit. The other thing I noticed, this is the third thing, is here are these oak trees, but then look over here. Those trees are supposed to be in a savanna biome. So I don't know what they're doing here. There's no savanna here at all. And no other trees like them. So we'll have to take note of that. I think I'm going to take down this little flag post behind me because that's not really needed anymore. And I'm marking it from where those two lines are. So I'm going to take down that little redstone flag behind me. And then I think the next step will be excavation. Okay, so let's start this thing off. I think I'm going to lay some test trenches. Maybe do 2 of these squares up here on this hill, on the south side of the hill. And then, if you remember perhaps from the first episode, over here by these acacia trees, you can maybe see peeking through here, through the grass. There was some actual blocks of what looked like clearly a remnant of some structure. So I think I'm going to put a couple of test trenches of some of these 10 by 10 squares over there. And then I may, once I'm finished with that, lay some test trenches over here in this very flat ground. Not totally sure what's there and why is that flat. So I want to put maybe those 3 test trenches, do that first. Yeah, A, B, C, D. I'm using iron just so I don't dig too quickly, but let's start the excavation. Okay, so I have a decision to be made here. So I'm gonna quick explain my thoughts here. So I removed all the topsoil, and then I've exposed this gravel. So this is a different level of stratigraphy, right? So this is a different material here. You can see that there's some, and this grass I think turned as I was removing it. So this would have been dirt, but you can see that there's dirt here as well. So I could either remove 1 block at a time and then take a map of this, or I could remove all of the 1 medium that I'm seeing to then match down to gravel. And that's what I think I'm going to do. So I'm seeing mostly gravel is the next layer down. So I'm going to remove this dirt here until I see gravel below, because I'm assuming that gravel is going to be the next strata layer. And so I'm going to keep removing dirt until I see strata throughout, instead of removing just 1 block at a time. Yep, and I'm seeing gravel there, and I'm seeing gravel there. Yeah, so it looks like dirt was the top layer, and then gravel is going to be the next stratigraphic layer down. Okay, and I'm not seeing any sus gravel here at all. Not that I can visually see, so nothing to take out my brush and start dusting. Right? I am going to leave these lines. So the grid I'm going to leave in place. So that in theory should, once I'm all done, you can start seeing it forming here. I should be able to see all the stratigraphic layers that I've removed by leaving all of those grid lines in place. So that's an old archaeological technique developed, I think, around the 1930s-ish or so. I think it's called the Wheeler Kenyon. I think Wheeler-Kenyon method, if I'm remembering correct. So archaeologists don't typically do that so much today, but I think this actually will work pretty well in Minecraft. So I'm going to leave all of these walls in place. I may end up removing the walls later, but at the end, and I can't really, I'll maybe jump up here so you can see above. So you will see, once I'm done excavating each one of these 10 by 10s, a line of the existing grid. So I'll be able to tell where the height of the original grid line is, which may be useful, so I don't want to lose that piece of data. But then I'll also visually be able to see exactly the layers of stratigraphy and how tall they were, right? 1 meter, 2 meters, etc., like that, at each grid intersection as I go down. Okay, so with that out of the way, let me maybe pop over here to what would be 6D. You know what? Actually, before I move to 6D, let me be all precise. I'll run back over here, find 5D, and I'll put everything that I've excavated thus far into 5D. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D. And now everything that I've pulled up, which is just dirt at this point, is going in this chest here. And if I need more chests, I can just keep, piling one on top of the other. So that's the plan. So each one of these chests corresponds to each one of these grids. So at the end of the day, I should be able to reconstruct and see exactly how much material I've pulled out and of what type. So let me maybe do this one, and then we'll continue on. Oh, I should have put unbreaking on my shovels. Maybe I'll do that once this one breaks. Okay, so this is what is it, 6D now I've removed all the dirt from that one. You can see I've now hit the next layer, which is this gravel layer. Still no sus gravel, but I don't think I see any sus gravel here. You can see this is basically the same level, right? So even though there's less dirt over here, this is a taller stratigraphic layer, and then it dips down a little bit more. So this is why we do excavations in an organized way. I may end up taking up actually 3 of these. So let me go over to 7D, and then let me flip back over here into survival. I can load up these iron shovels so I don't have to flip back and forth as often. And let me start chopping this tree here. So I'm going to put the wood from this tree in with the rest of everything else that I've collected here, so I can tell where the tree was and what species of tree. So that'll go in 7D as well. Okay, this is 7D done. I'm going to run back, deliver this. Still no sus gravel, but it's all right. Going to run this back to 7D, and then we'll continue on. I think after this, I'm going to do the next trench, the next test trench. Let's do, so this is 11. So 11A is this one here. So 11B, 11C, 11D. So let's do 11D then. And then I'll maybe take 3 up here. So let's 11D is where I'm excavating. Okay, just to recap here, because I think I sped this along in a time lapse, if I remember correctly. That's what I was intending on doing here. So Excavated at grid 11, put in a test trench at 11D. Didn't find anything, just this stone. So not seeing the next stratigraphic layer up that was up on the little tell or little hill here, or mound, which was gravel. So didn't see that there. So just saw kind of archaeologically sterile stone, which would be native to the area. Opened up another test trench a little closer to the tell and a little further up, just to give another view here. So this is quadrant or grid point 10G. And so in 10G, you can see where there's some world edit openings, right? You're not going to see pockets of air, obviously, in real life. But this looks like this would probably be the edge of where Daskalos did the world edit. Again, sterile stone, not any of the gravel. So it looks like, yeah, the site's looking this way. It doesn't look like probably it's here. Not sure what this flat area was. Potentially Daskalos wants it interpreted as maybe farm fields, potentially, or maybe there was a plaza. I'm not really sure. I would expect there to maybe see some artifacts. I may end up excavating these once I'm done with the tell. But it looks like, or I guess the other possibility is that Daskalos just left this open because for the reconstruction. Maybe we're supposed to leave the site as it is here, and then maybe use Lightmatica or something like that to then bring it over in this area. And if that's the case, this may be a good indication of how large the site is. So I would have to maybe look at the map to see, is this open area the same size as what the excavation maybe looks like in the tell. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to open up some trenches here at the top of the hill next to where I can clearly see some structure. So I think I maybe go, which one do I want? Maybe this one next to it. Maybe I do this one and then this one. That way I'm right next to it. And then maybe I remove this one as well. So I'll do these three, and that'll give a good picture because I want to see what the extent is going out this direction as well. I need to maybe open up some test trenches this way, but I think if we do these three in a line right here, starting maybe with these trees. So we're going to start excavating 4H. I'm going to leave this tree because it's right here in the middle. Remember, I'm leaving this grid, so I'll be digging in the shade. But you know what? Actually, before I start removing the dirt, I'm going to grab my axe, take down these trees that are within the grid, and then start removing 4H. Okay, so heading up to I, let me start removing this dirt. Oh, and look at that. We're starting to see structure. Okay, so I'm going to continue to remove this dirt. I know we're starting to see structure, but I'm going to remove this dirt, assuming that the gravel is going to be this next layer. So I should be able to either see structure or gravel. And I will be stopping at the gravel if I see gravel, and obviously stopping at the structure. But the idea here is to remove all of this dirt medium. Okay, so that's all the dirt removed from this specific. This was a highly productive grid. I actually do think I'm going to remove this tree here so I can get a clear view when I create a map of it. No more digging in the shade, but should get a better map result out of this. I'm not so worried about collecting all the saplings because that's just kind of random drops. That's not necessarily telling. There's nothing terribly archaeologically significant, obviously. If a tree's grown here and then leans this way or leans that way, I don't think that that's really a clue on what's happening below the ground, because that happened after. Oh, the other thing that I was kind of watching for, but I'm not seeing here, is when you're excavating and there are roots, oftentimes, you know, those roots have to go somewhere. And so I was kind of watching for where the trees went. And this is part of why I left the grid in place too, is if Daskalos would have created, you know, and filled under the tree with a different dirt type, right? Because sometimes you see that, right? There's a root ball, and then there's those roots go different places and they branch out, and so you'll see that as, you know, a different colored soil. And so it could be that maybe there's an old dead tree, right, that used to be there. You don't see the tree today, but you see kind of where the roots branched off. Well, that may be just a natural feature, you know, or a natural different color soil, right? So yeah, so that's something archaeologically maybe pay attention to, but not necessarily something that I'm super concerned with here on this side, it looks like, because it doesn't look like Daskalos changed the color of the dirt under the trees. Okay, back up. Okay, so I've excavated now these 3 down. I've removed just the dirt. I've left all of the gravel layer, right? That's the next layer of stratigraphy, right? It's the next layer as it's coming down and uncovering some architectural structures, right? So looks like potentially these are some walls. These deep slate here, potentially road or roof tile. My guess is roof tile but I don't know. Oh yeah, so I was thinking maybe the gravel was under that roof tile, but it looks like no. So yeah, so I'm thinking roof tile, roof collapsed. And then I think I may be gonna do a couple more of these and then see if I can see the extent. Maybe I'll pull a couple trenches this way across the site here on the north side. But yeah, let me put this back and keep excavating. I don't know, I think this is pretty exciting. You know what, actually I think I'm gonna put some trenches here, this flat area, and see if I see this as sterile or not. I think maybe that's what's next. 2F. Let me take 2F down here. And then let's see what's under 2F. Put a little test trench on this side of the hill, this west side of the hill. So in some area of the world, in some areas of the world here, these little hills would be called a tell. So you've been maybe hearing me call it a tell, and then correcting myself and calling it a hill or a mound. A mound's a little different. Oh yeah, we're getting some gravel here, so it looks like the site does continue off in this direction. But a tell is usually, you find that maybe in Turkey or other areas like that. And what you see with a mound like that is over time, as the inhabitants, you know, cities get built over, as there's destruction layers, they'll just be torn down, knocked down, and then the next city or town will just be built on top of it. So over time, you kind of get this graduated buildup of, you know, one level of city, another level of city, another level of city. So for instance, when Heinrich Schliemann, the archaeologist, if you can call him an archaeologist, but antiquarian, maybe better term at that time, excavated Troy, he found, I think it was something, and I think there's like 14 or 16. I'd have to actually look it up, but there's over a dozen layers of Troy, and I think they're still finding some even today. So the Trojan War, the famous Trojan War, and the Greeks against the Trojan War with Agamemnon and Paris and Helen, all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's when they went and excavated, Heinrich Schliemann just kind of went through and was looking for the level of Troy that he wanted. Just dug right through and just tore up the sites. Dug right through the site that he was actually looking for. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, so let me finish taking off maybe this layer of dirt, and this will be. Let's talk about this in just a moment. Then. Okay, let me pick up this dirt. So I think I may go down another one or two. I'd like to hit sterile something, right? Either another sterile soil or like rock, like I was seeing on the other side, over there. But this is interesting here. So, okay. So when you look at the strata, we were seeing before in the other grids, a topsoil layer, and then we were seeing dirt obviously below it. So topsoil is that little strip. Archaeologically, that would be one layer. And then, on a regular excavation site, then you'd have this colored dirt, okay? And then we would use a soil color chart and track this as a layer. But I was stopping at the gravel, right? But what are we seeing here? The same archaeological layer going underneath that gravel. So that probably, if I was seeing this, I would say that this is a feature. So that would mean that someone dug this out and then this dirt was infill. Okay, so yeah, so this is interesting. So that means that in theory, this dirt here, let me actually flip so I'm not going to punch it. This layer right here, all that I'm standing on, and this layer would date the same as what's kind of above it. Okay, so that means that like this area would have been removed at some point in the past, and then this gravel layer was then inflowed in. So it means that this would date to this, and this then has to date to after this. Okay. Okay, let me dig. Okay, there we are. Now we're at the stone layer. I was going to do a little shovel test. I mean, normally you don't do a shovel test in a trench like this, but, you know, it's Minecraft Archaeology, so... But a shovel test normally is like a field survey technique that you use. So, you know, if you remember last episode, I kind of walked up and back looking for surface artifacts. If the ground is covered, like let's say you're in a pasture or a field and you can't actually see the dirt, you would do what's called a shovel test. And then that's maybe every 5 or 10 meters or 20, 25 meters, whatever. You would then dig a hole and then, go up another, 5, dig another hole, and you'd go down to essentially where you'd see sterile soil or rock like this. And then, you'd pick up whatever artifacts, and that would give you kind of a picture, so you'd put a lot of these shovel tests to shovel holes in. And I actually let me actually flip to creative real quick. I think I'm actually going to do that over, I wanted to check if there was any docks or whatever. So I may actually do some of that over this area where there's maybe a harbor potentially, or out here on this peninsula where there's, I would expect to see some sort of, lighthouse or, fishing something maybe, or I don't know, watchtower or something. And so long story short, I may drop some shovel tests over there just to show you guys what that looks like. Yeah, my guess is, look at this slope here. So this is coming in here. I'm guessing this is coming to come around. So maybe I want to put a shovel test. Well, no, because that's all here. Okay. I maybe want to do this one too. See what's here. Okay, maybe one last test trench. Let me flip to creative. Pretend I'm a drone for a moment, flying over the site. Okay. I think I want to do one up here. I did not do any test trenches up over here. Let's do... Let's do this one here. This one right here. Okay. 7L. Here we go. Huh. So getting some of this from the other side here. So gravel over top of the dirt. Okay, so this looks like it's the extent of the site right here. So again, this curves around. I would imagine it's going to continue along here, right? Look at the... So yeah, so I suspect I don't need to excavate these. I think basically as long as I stop here, kind of where this floating grass is, that would probably be the extent of the site over here. So we have some structures here, just to review. Okay, so I did some test trenches. I think next we're going to create some maps. Going to put map on the map board for the test trenches, and then we'll summarize what we maybe found, and then let's... I think I have a good sense of the perimeter of the site at this point. And as I talked about before, I'll probably do some shovel tests other places, but I think I have a good sense of where I need to excavate. So I'm going to do a map of the test trenches, and then after that, I think I'm going to start excavating out the grids that are open. Okay, so made some maps of the test trenches here. So you can see that this is just the dirt layer. So you can see all the various different test trenches. So a couple of these here, you can see were just stone, pretty much. And then there was some gravel ones. So really, we have kind of two choices, I think. So I could go through the other grid areas, remove all of the dirt layer, and expose what I think is either structure or gravel layer. Or my other option is to continue down the test trenches and then remove the dirt layer, or remove the gravel layer and see what's under that gravel layer. So I think actually that may be where I start. I'm gonna start with the gravel, with the test trenches that have gravel, and then I can get a better sense of the different layers of stratigraphy, right? So first is dirt, maybe second one's gravel, third one, for all I know, is, I don't know what, coarse dirt, or I'm not sure what, or rooted dirt. I'm not sure what Daskalos has done as far as stratigraphic layers. So let's remove the at least in one or two of these test trenches to see what's below that gravel layer, whether or not that's structure below the gravel layer or just gravel, and there's only really two layers of stratigraphy. So yeah, so let's do that, and then I'll go and start excavating all the other grids. I suspect some of you now are saying, you know where the site is at, just go dig it out. But you know what? I'm going to approach this like an archaeologist. And, archaeology, as I've said, is a destructive process. And part of it is doing it in an organized way. And that takes time. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to take my time with the excavation, and, hopefully it pays dividends and we can get a good result. Okay, so removing the gravel here was really interesting. So as you saw, that my first sus gravel, I totally missed and broke it. So my guess, though, is that my supposition is that it would be, let me actually place this here, and then I can just say I missed one there. But my guess is that that's just going to be charcoal. But I'm not going to put a charcoal there. I'm just going to infer it. There's no other sus gravel in the sides from the look of it. Coming around here. Nope. Okay. So now I'm a little bit of a quandary here, because I'm now at this dirt area, and the dirt is higher than, so I wonder if I should treat the dirt as sterile here. You know what, I think what I may do is dig down. Yeah, so the dirt here was under. Let me look under this one. Normally you wouldn't be able to do this if you're doing archaeology, but yeah, I think what I'm seeing here, yeah, I think this dirt is sterile at this point. So I'm just going to leave it at that level, I think. Okay, where do I want to excavate next? I think I want to do this one right here. Oh, I almost missed this one. I almost broke this one. Okay, so we have our first organic, looks like. Let's see, we have oak slab. Maybe we get some radiocarbon dating off this, or get some dendrochronology. That's fantastic. Okay, so something to discuss here. So this was an interesting next level down. So I removed the gravel from here, found a couple of artifacts, but check out these artifacts here. So this is a lantern. Okay, so that means that has some metal in it. This has some light producing thing in it. So that must mean that they either potentially whale oil, we're right next to the coast, right? Or fish oil potentially, or olive oil as the light source. Potentially hydrocarbons. I suppose that I don't know what. Oh, I've missed this sus thing over here. I don't know what era this thing is from. It could be that this is like a future society potentially that I'm excavating. So I don't want to assume too much here, but yeah. And then I have my first organic, so a little radiocarbon dating perhaps. But let me get rid of these here, and then let me put this artifact in its place. Some yellow dye. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, any more sus anything in here that I just missed? No, but oh, there is one right here. These in the walls are a little tricky sometimes. Some more organic. I love it. Hovering over in drone mode here, we have this one dug out. This was just dirt, that's why it's turned into grass. But it was dirt, and then I may need to take it down more layers, but that's kind of interesting that there was dirt under the gravel, but we'll see that when we get to the side section here. But there were some artifacts, some charcoal, some seeds, so potentially a burn layer, destruction layer potentially. Uncovered more of this structure here. Didn't really move anything there because it didn't look like there was anything really substantial right there. Starting to get some of this, another burn layer, potentially, destruction layer. Some charcoal. This one was interesting. Kind of continues over, some more wood. I lost this artifact, but I'm going to assume that's a wood for right now. A furnace. So some charcoal around the furnace, that makes sense. Glass pane. So maybe there's a building over here potentially. And then this is a building and some charcoal, so maybe a destruction layer. So yeah, so it's shaping up that potentially a destruction layer or fire, maybe. Destruction, maybe not, like conflict related, because I'm not seeing any weapons. Normally you'd see some weapons in the ruins, but or bones or something like that potentially. Iron getting some organic matter, so potentially there'd be some bones saved, but definitely a lot of charcoal for whatever reason. Maybe earthquake. Guess we'll see. Okay, so the gravel layer, I made the map of that, so you can see the difference. This first layer, just with the removed the removal of the dirt on the chest trenches, did the removal of the dirt on these, and now I'm down to structure in some cases. Uncovered a bunch of artifacts. See more of the structure here, and see that removed. So I think it's time now. I think I have a pretty good sense of where this structure is. I think I'm just going to start taking it down. Leaving the grid walls in place like I was talking about, but I think I'm just going to start really uncovering the site at this point to get a good sense of where all the buildings are and potentially roadways, and see if there's any. May end up putting some test trenches on the outskirts if it looks like there's some roadways leading out. But yeah, certainly there's a bunch of structure here in the middle that I can take down. And so I think that's my next step, is to really start doing that. Okay, on to the time lapse, I think. Okay, so flipping back from the time lapse here, just real briefly, want to talk about this little grid we just excavated down to this level. So there's still some gravel that I need to remove, but beyond just the regular charcoal, which we've been uncovering next to these cobblestones, starting to see some bone. So that's interesting. And then this grid, as well as the one next door to it, had some potsherd. So, yeah, so some different finds. So I'm not sure what's up with the bones here. I'll be keeping my eye out for some others. But yeah, perhaps maybe not just an earthquake, maybe some remains. But yeah, destruction layer of some kind, I think, clearly. Okay, so I think I'm pretty caught up with excavating for this video. Let me flip over here to first person view and fly over, and let's talk about some interesting things. So the site clearly was in this tell, okay? Didn't uncover anything in these test trenches. You can see pretty clearly where the perimeter of the site was, and I took down all the dirt to the as the first strata here, and you can see that kind of there, and then the gravel was the second layer of, you know, and so I left this little ring just to remind myself that that's where that was. So you can see that there's a couple of structures again as I hover over, pretend I'm a drone for a minute. Need to do the site interpretation, but it looks like there's a central street, looks like running down there. Looks like there's some lampstands potentially, so this maybe use of iron, or I'm not sure what they used for fuel, whether it's hydrocarbons or whether or not they used maybe like whale oil. We're not far from the coast, or you know, so olive oil potentially. Looks like potentially some industry, maybe wood, potentially some furnaces. Maybe these are remnants of workbenches. Need to think about that. Yeah, another lampstand potentially, or a light of some sort. Candle, a window. In this structure here, looks like there was a stone slab, so that's interesting, as well as bones and charcoal. So I don't know, maybe a ceremonial site. Not quite sure. A string. Yeah. And then this was the which one was this? This was the Howl pottery. So Yeah, so maybe something related to domestic, something or other, with some bricks over here in this structure. Let's see. Yeah, this structure, I'm not sure what this one was. Maybe it was a house, but it looked like it burned down potentially. I need to do some excavating, some further excavating here. Bring down this packed mud layer. It looks like there's some sand underneath, so maybe that was the original floor potentially. Not sure 100% without more excavation what the walls were and what the ceiling was. Another lamp stand. This looks like it's terracotta. Yeah, terracotta facility of some sort. Warehouse, maybe. You can see that there's some iron in here. Some raw terracotta. And then the glazed terracotta. And again, another destruction of a site. More destruction with a single iron, some wheat outside of that one. Let's see, that continues on over here with more destruction of this site. This house over here and this house over here. You can see that these have a pitcher pod and a torch flower seed, so that's interesting. And then, let's see, this, not sure exactly what this is. Potentially, I don't know, I want to say cemetery, but maybe not. Need to maybe ask Daskalos what these items are. As you saw maybe in the replay, some of the sus gravel didn't actually. I would dust it, and nothing would pop out, and eventually it would turn into this regular gravel here. And then I would basically lose the artifact. So in those cases, I basically put a glass block there, put an empty item frame, and then in the ones like this that like literally nothing came out of, and it looked like it was going to break, like that one, I just put a item frame on top of it, so that I would at least indicate there was an artifact there. And I just got to follow up later with Daskalos and ask him what that was. So same thing there, missed this. So either, my guess is either that's going to be a pitcher pod or charcoal. Again, more stone work there, so I'm not really sure what these are. Maybe in the next episode I'm going to remove all these bulks. So I talked at the beginning of the episode about my strategy and leaving these 10 by 10 grid walls in place, but that essentially leaves these 1 meter bulks. That's what these walls are called. And so while that's great for, I think up to this point, me organizing where the backfill goes in the various chests over here, it does hamper the kind of the ability to visualize the site, and then the ability to just kind of walk through the site from the ground level and actually see what's what. So I think I'm going to take down these bulks in the next episode, I think, so I can visualize it. And then just to round out the site here, this, and I'm not sure if it's 2 conjoined buildings at this point or 1 large building, but this is what kind of, in my own mind, I've been calling the House of Black and White. Kind of like from, I don't think actually it has anything to do with Game of Thrones, but it kind of amuses me that I call this the House of Black and White. You can see some pillars that have been knocked down, right? So that'll give some indication of how tall the structure was, which is nice. And then it looks like the central road leads right up to here, so this looks like the entrance, right, with some stairs that have, and then some pottery, some good pottery here, some glass, so colored glass, some lichen, and some, oh, this is interesting here. So you saw some coal there, and then these are coal here. The rest of all the destruction layer is charcoal. So this is the only coal that we see, so that's interesting. More lights, more colored glass for windows. I'll have to think about this. I don't know how much to read into the actual color of the colored glass when I do my reproduction. Oftentimes, archaeologically, glass over time will, the impurities will oxidize. And so what may have been close to clear glass or maybe slightly yellowed glass in history, when you excavate it archaeologically, it actually comes out different colors. So whether it's purplish or whatnot, maybe more orange color. Has to do with the impurities of it. So I need to remove what I think is this roof and kind of remove that to see. Looks like there's a gold block here and some fancy flooring. So I need to kind of do some further excavations within the structure. So the fact that I've removed the dirt doesn't mean that my excavations are done. But yeah, brewing stand. So there's some I think. So I don't know if this is either a ceremonial building or maybe the ruler's building. I could see where maybe this is the ruler of the village or the leader of the village's house. It's clearly a higher end, a richer house, based on the comparative building material used. But whether or not maybe this is a ceremonial building, courtyard potentially. So maybe these are gardens, potentially. I need to excavate further below here. But yeah, that's my thought of the site. So wanted to walk you through it before I kind of ended the episode. But the one thing I do want to do before I finish is I talked about doing some shovel tests. So it would make sense to me, given the tell or the mound or the site being here, talked about how protected and nice this harbor is. So I'm going to just real quickly kind of maybe put a couple runs here, because this is where I would expect the dock to be, potentially a road leading up to a dock. I didn't see any ships down below here, but let me flip over into survival and that's a screenshot. Let me quick do some shovel tests. So I'm just going to do it nothing there, down to sterile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me do another one. Oh, no, I'm stuck in my hole. Now, normally, if you're going this deep archaeologically, you'd have to use an auger. There's no way you'd actually dig this deep. Normally, your shovel tests, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, would only be, a meter deep at most, or else you'd really have to start, surrounding it. Normally, you only go down a couple of inches. But let me, stone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. So maybe I'll continue up this one here. Let's see. Yeah, no. That way at least I complete my shovel test runs. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. It's just down to sterile soil. So I don't think... Let me fly again. I don't think there's anything here. I think that, But with shovel tests, you're just kind of guessing, right? You're giving it a go. If I found an artifact or I found something unusual, I would maybe do a test trench, pull a grid, kind of like what I did over here, over a couple of these, and then dig down. But I don't think there's anything in this area. Okay, so as you saw, I went around here, and anytime there was this, packed mud on the outside, I basically picked it up and I put it on the wall structure, keeping the format that it seemed like was there. So let's assume for a moment that this was wattle and daub, and that's kind of what this, packed mud, or maybe it was just straight up packed mud walls. So it looks like this is two structures, but this is interesting. So within these structures, you can see, potentially these are doorways in here, right? Potentially, right? You'd come in the central area, and then There would be doorway areas to be able to navigate within. But you can see each of these little areas now that I've removed the packed mud. This has a loom. This has... let's see. This didn't seem to have anything but charcoal in it, so not sure what this would have been for. There is wood right here, so maybe there's a wooden beam that ran across that then fell, collapsed, and then didn't burn. There's a barrel. Nothing in the barrel, though, unfortunately. And then there is this area here, so this is bamboo. So potentially bamboo fell from the ceiling. Let me actually dig this out here real quick. Let's see. Yeah, there's nothing there. Okay, so let me move that out of my... And then where was... Oh, yeah, there's a smoker here, so nothing in the smoker. So yeah, so we got a barrel, we have a loom, we have some oak, so maybe an oak beam, and then thatch roof. So yeah, so I think based on this, I think I'm going to use bamboo for the roof, not hay barrel or hay bale. So yeah, so I think we're starting to see this shape up. So here's what I did here on this reconstruction. It's not, I mean, it looks like an ugly reconstruction, if I do say so myself, but I tried to stay true to what I was seeing archaeologically. And so bamboo roof, because I found that bamboo in there, and then found the oak logs. I think I found it like right here or so, right? And so, actually it be right here. And so what I did is I followed where the oak logs were, as I talked about, in conjunction with where I was seeing a lot of the charcoal, assuming that the charcoal came from this roof or these log structures burning. And so that's how I ended up with this little design here. So some cross beams coming across. I also tried to keep all of the packed mud. And so, you know, I need to maybe fill some of this in a little bit. But I tried to keep all this packed mud so that I was using all of it that I had in my inventory. So yeah, and that's pretty close to what I had, because I placed about 9 right there, and I had 9 in my inventory. Not sure what's going on here. I had a similar thing here. Maybe I'll put this here as well, but I'm not sure why there'd be 2 logs sticking out right there. But yeah, it's a little bit of a weird design. So we've rebuilt a couple of these, and I'll go through and actually walk through those in just a minute. But I wanted to pause here in the middle of the time lapse to kind of talk about this a little bit. I'm a little confused by this, to be perfectly honest. Not really sure what direction I want to go. So it was clear from, let's see, let me flip over to first person so I can point with my guy. Yeah, it was clear that this wall had kind of tipped over. Same thing here. We got some tippage, right? You could even see some of the remnants in the grass where that wall had collapsed. And then similarly, so it looks like maybe there's a 3-high wall. So it looks like at least the back of the structure is a little high. And then started going around here. I righted these columns around what I think is the fountain. So I put that in place. Righted the walls that look like they had tumbled into what looks like this little courtyard area where there's a little what is this? The craftsman area, and then you can see that maybe there was a beam. That's kind of how I've been interpreting some of this stuff. Is there's maybe beams that are running across in some of these areas. So I would imagine this one over here is charcoal as well. But here's my little mystery: is so we have what looks like this stairs stuff. So maybe that's roof, or maybe that's, you know, a peaked roof potentially coming over here. That's quite possible, but the peak looks like it's going the wrong direction here, right? So this would be peaked facing this way, right? Not facing this way. So I interpreted this, and actually maybe I'll just quick remove. Yeah, so that's some sus. So my guess is this is going to be an iron. That's how I interpreted it over in this building. Let me pop over here. Is there was some iron in the corner with this same kind of setup, so I interpreted that as a chimney, right, of some sort. So I think I'm going to do the same thing here, assuming this is iron. But here's the bit that confuses me. So there's these stairs coming up. So I first thought maybe there was some decorative stairs running. You know, maybe this comes up a couple more blocks, right, from this point that I'm jumping up and down, right, to match this, and then this was a little eave, right, that was going across. But then, you know, this is how I've been interpreting the walls, right, this area here. So that you would need the stairs to hit this, but then this thing that I'm not understanding is now you're dropping a whole nother level. Clearly this is the floor level, at least that's what I'm interpreting it as right now. And so I'm confused by why there wouldn't be stairs coming down the other section, and I'm not seeing any. Okay, so let's talk about this here. I've been calling this up to this point a fountain, and you can clearly see I went a little different direction, the opposite of a fountain. In fact, there's fire there. Fountains typically don't have fire. But I think actually, as I was second thinking about that, and the fact that the what I was calling a fountain had, you know, a single charcoal in the middle, maybe I figured out maybe it was be an altar. So I mocked this up, although I don't really think that this is accurate. So let me just walk through it here, and I'll talk about the little modifications I'm going to make here. So around the outside of the fountain altar thing, there was mud brick pillars, right, on these foundation blocks, and all of them were too high, with the exception of this one over here, where there was two that were together and then one that was kind of off to the side. So this one appears to be 3 high. So I'm not sure why this one would be 3 and the others would be 2, but I reconstructed it because that's what I saw in the archaeological record. As far as this, what I did here in the middle, so there were none of these mud brick walls when I took out the mud brick on the inside. However, let me flip up on screen here of a screenshot I took beforehand, and so hopefully you're seeing that now. And so you can see how there was stairs mixed with mud brick slabs and mud brick blocks that seem to, if you kind of look at the mud brick stairs and the blocks, it looks like, you know, if you kind of imagine that they would rotate up, that wall would collapse in and maybe make that stair shape. So you can see how the stair always matches up to the full wall block, and then there's the slabs on either side of it. Now, I don't know that I have these slabs in the right place. So then it would be open in the inside. So imagine that this is kind of the pillar structure, right? This would collapse, maybe make the stairs. In fact, I think that maybe these wouldn't be the stairs. And I know we clearly collected stairs, and you can see stairs, but I actually suspect that what the stairs are the sideways of these. So let me change this here, change that there. and then that, and let me flip over into creative again so that I can grab another one of these. And I actually think that this may be the more accurate interpretation. Now, the other thing I think is a little bit of a mystery here is you can see the shape. It's coming in like this and then come around, but I don't know why this is missing. Clearly, you know, I'm seeing brick below here. So, you know, and actually let me remove. Yeah, okay, so interesting. So I wonder if this whole thing was on top of these. Yeah, I think that's what we're supposed to do here. So this whole thing isn't this shape. This whole thing rested, I think, on top of these pillars. Okay, so I rebuilt this by, you know, you saw me take out this these stairs, and I took all those out, and clearly there was consistent flooring underneath. So, oh, messed that up. So actually, I think this was raised and then collapsed inward. So, you know, I would think that this would have been here. This would have been maybe matching with that. This would have come against this, and this would have come against that. But that's, I literally just took it from what was below here and then raised it up as if that collapsed inward. Now you can see, and that matched up with where I was putting these stairs and slabs and whatnot. I'm wondering if these slabs shouldn't be going here on the inside, and that if this shouldn't all expand outward. Yeah, this may be just how this gets interpreted, which is, I don't know, just doesn't, I don't like that these pillars aren't even. Maybe that's just me, but I think this maybe is how I'll leave it. So I finished with all these structures now, with the exception of this big boy behind me here. So what I've been calling the House of Black and White. Not really sure as I've been saying this is a house or not. But I'm going to get started working on this. I'll do this in a time lapse. But just one thing to note here. I think once I'm all finished, I'm going to go through, chat about what I think each of these structures are. But then I think I'm not really sure I like the looks of a lot of these. I mean, they're kind of rough, right? I've tried to follow the actual archaeology that I saw to guide what these things look like. But from a Minecraft build perspective, they're rough. Like I don't know that I love these buildings so much. I do think that I'm maybe going to go back just to make them look a little more Minecrafty and a little bit better. Yeah, because I'm not, you know, like that roof behind me, you know, not sure I like this roof at all. This is really, I mean, it looks like a Minecraft build from, I don't know, 2013 maybe. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on with my work. Gonna do this, the House of Black and White, and then go through, do all the chats, and then yeah, maybe make it look nice in Minecraft. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, so I think I fixed the roof. Here, let me hop over here. You can see I did do 2 different layers. So when I counted up the tallest wall segment, so this right here was the tallest wall segment in back, so it was 5 tall. Everything else looked like it could be the same. Windows were there, but this was 5 tall, and then the walls were crumbled down around it, and then there was a wall segment within the temple here that was 4 tall, 1, 2, 3, and then this 4th one was a diorite slab, or a polished diorite slabs, 2 of them. So this one was kind of 4 tall. So that's kind of how I judged the height here. And then if you see, what I did is I looked closer at the screenshots I took, and while the top layer here was this black diorite, not diorite, this black deep slate tile, below all of it in the layers were all of these polished diorite and then diorite slabs and sometimes stairs. And so what I interpreted that as is that the inside, so the ceiling was this diorite, and then above it was the roof tiles. So that's how I interpreted that. And then it seemed like this was one lower in this section here. And so that's why I went with this 2-tiered. And actually, I think I like this little white strip here. Although, generally speaking, it's all very samey, right? What I mean by that is like there's no overhang. It's very clean line. Normally you get kind of, at least with Greek temples, you get this like triangle up atop, which is nice. But this is very flat, I guess is my point. So from just a Minecraft eye, it looks to my eye not so great. But there isn't anything to say that the temple has to look great. Maybe it looked awesome to these people, whoever they were. So I've updated the maps, and you can see this was as I was doing the grids, and then I took another one here. This is before I excavated out and reconstructed the whole site. And then I was just calling them houses, but I wasn't really sure what the structure was. Some of them, like the market and the terracotta shop, I was pretty sure that I knew what they were. And then this is the latest map here.
Okay, so I'm to understand you all are done?
Yeah.
Yep, all done.
Yep.
Excellent.
Definitely
And you're ready to get graded?
No.
Yeah,
but yes.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
grades.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, then I will take one of you.
Oh, I guess we're doing this one at a time, huh?
I guess so.
So did you bring any cards?
No. Although maybe he left the cheat sheet in the desk over here. Nope.
Okay.
Oh, hey, not doing anything.
Hello. Okay, so that was good. I will take the next
No way.
person. All right. We are here. Would you like to walk me through it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
fly down there, I think.
Yeah. It's quite the drop.
Yeah. Okay, so
All
just
right.
from the start, I left a lot of the site that wasn't my recreation as it was in the excavation, right? So I didn't try and cover up any of the excavation lines or my grids that I didn't excavate or nothing like that. So I just focused my recreation on the area of the architectural structures,
Yeah.
and where it was obvious the decorations were. Some buildings,
Okay.
I went where I could make what I thought were decent educated guesses within the structure. I would decorate within the structure based on what I
Okay.
was able to see. Others, if I didn't think I had a good guess of how to decorate it, I just left it at the architecture and the artifacts that I found. So,
Excellent. Okay.
And I will explain why I did what each one. So let's maybe the road, maybe, since we're standing here. This was, in my mind, pretty obvious where the road was. I didn't see a whole lot of branching roads, but I kind of left the road as I was finding it.
Okay.
These lantern lights, these street lights, I recreated like I did here, because specifically this one we're standing in front of, I found laying, and so in front of where it is. So from this base here out to around here with a lantern on top of it. And so based on that height, I was able to judge the height, and then the kind of off to the side there was one of these, and then there was a couple of others down the road, and they all seemed to be on this chiseled stone as well. So whenever I would see one of these chiseled stones along the road, I would recreate one of these street lights.
Okay.
So that was my interpretation there.
All right.
These residences, I kept the foundation as you see it there, with the cobblestone. There were more openings, but in each one of these of small hut-like, or what I'm interpreting as small hut-like residences, the floor was this pattern where it was like a 3x3 with an extra one out there. So I interpreted that as the door was always on that little outskirt mud. The packed mud for the walls is what I interpreted that had collapsed into the site. And then in some of these, there was larger openings. Like, for instance, in this one specifically, there was like these weren't there in my recreation. But I basically completed what I thought the wall would be, and just assumed there was some blocks that were missing or stolen after the site was destroyed. The ceiling, I went with this this here bamboo slab, and I had just interpreted that the bamboo slab was maybe thatch, or maybe it is bamboo, but I did that because in one of these residences, in the floor there was one bamboo slab in the floor, and so I interpreted that as a remnant of the roof structure. But just to be clear, the roof shape is completely my conjecture. Like, I don't know what the roof shape looked like. I just made each one look a slightly different. I put the campfires where I did, because in most of these huts, there was a single charcoal that was found, and I interpreted that as a hearth or some sort of heating element, like a fire or something. So I put a campfire there in each one of these huts that had it. In the huts that, or these residences that did not have that, I did not include that because I couldn't guess where it would be. Because I was interpreting as a residence, I put beds in it. But there weren't any beds in any of these. That was just my guess because I was interpreting it as a residence. So that's essentially these 6 residents. This area here, which on my map I labeled this, I called this one the Weavers and this one the Smokers house. And that's really just because, and I don't know if, just to be honest, if this was 2 distinct structures or one structure, as I've done that here with a conjoining roof line. I'll explain why I did it like this for reasons. But the floor I left kind of almost as is. Sometimes it was dirt, sometimes it was the sandstone. Where there was grass, I kind of filled it in with the sandstone. But my interpretation was that since I was finding sandstone here, that was the dirt structure. You can see that there's a weavers here. I left this structure pretty much as it was. Again, cobblestone foundations for the walls, mud brick, and packed mud for the actual wall structure itself. I made the height what I did because when it was clear that some of the wall had fallen down, either both in and or around the structure, and so where it hadn't fallen down, or where I could clearly show that the wall had just tipped, off of the foundation, it was kind of too high here, and so that's why I made it too high, kind of as a universal around the structure. So that's
okay.
I mean, I put these beams where I did because there were lines of charcoal on the ground that corresponded to where these beams would go. So my interpretation was that that charcoal was, maybe there's a fire event. Actually, on the whole site, I kind of interpreted it as like an earthquake that led to fires. There was clearly a destruction layer throughout the whole site, but it looked like there was a fire certainly in this structure that corresponds to charcoal related to the beam structures. And so that's
Okay.
and because the charcoal lines matched between the two structures, if you looked at where the lines were, that's why I interpreted it as one beam that kind of spanned both lines. And so that's why I conjoined the two structures like I did.
Okay.
This one was pretty clear that this was a marketplace with market stalls. So I didn't do much changing where the foundations were or where the actual stalls were. I put barrels where the artifacts were found. So in this one, there was these wooden slabs. And so I kind of interpreted them as either wooden slabs that were being sold or just wooden slabs making, just being used maybe as, I don't know, dividing areas for that stall. But there was enough wooden slabs that I just kind of interpreted that maybe they're selling wood here, wooden planks or whatnot.
Okay.
Let's see. This one, I think, is a candle shop because there was string and there was dye. This one had a single stone slab in it, so I wasn't clear whether or not they were selling stone slabs, and actually that was located right here. So I kind of piled up some stone slabs here, maybe in case they were selling stone slabs, but I also thought that maybe it was a stone slab in a grindstone, so that's why I put a grindstone there. Is potentially maybe they're sharpening tools or something in that shop. These two stalls had bones in it. It's the only bones on the whole site. And so I interpreted that as, I don't know if it's specifically chickens, but, some sort of food stuff, some sort of animal, that died in these two. I can't tell from a Mindstone bone if it's an animal bone or a skeleton or a, human remains or whatever, but
Right.
I just interpret it as chickens because it's a market stall.
Right.
But I also was on keen lookout for bones throughout, or actually weapons throughout this, because, in a destruction layer, this is also why I was leaning towards earthquake as the destruction layer. Because if I'm not seeing bones, if I'm not seeing weapons, or if you're seeing those and it's a destruction layer, like that could possibly mean that the site was, sacked or destroyed in some sort of violent event, war or whatever. I'm not seeing any of that. And so that's why I was interpreted as either just a fire that swept through, but I'm also seeing walls knocked down, specifically, and we'll get it to another site later. There's a couple pillars that have literally fallen to the direction of the south, And so I kind of interpreted that as, some sort of seismic event that then has knocked the walls down, knocked down flame, and then that's what's burnt the place down.
Okay. I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
You made the statement that these chiseled blocks had these sort of street lights on it.
Yes.
Right? And I'm looking at them, and they are stone brick wall segments that go up. So sort of these posts, these thin posts.
Yep.
But I noticed that in here you have wood.
Yep.
Why? Could you explain why you interpreted that as wood?
I interpreted it as wood because I didn't see any wall segments anywhere here like I did in the streets. And so I did it as wood under the assumption that if there was wall segments, I would see some sort of stone around here.
Okay.
And so because for lack of archaeological evidence, I chose an organic material that was potentially not uncovered archaeologically.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, I was just curious because I noticed the difference.
Yep. Moving over to this site here. So this, I kind of called it the terracotta shop, but honestly, it would be more than just terracotta. But there's a lot of terracotta. So both regular terracotta, colored terracotta, some glazed terracotta, and then bricks also with a brick floor. There was a single piece of iron here, and so. I wasn't really sure if that was maybe an anvil or something. I wasn't really sure what that single piece of iron would represent. But because of the quartz, I thought maybe they were, doing some, cutting bricks or, or something like that, right?
Okay.
Or cutting the quartz. And so that's why I interpreted maybe this iron as, the stone cutter. So,
Okay.
Oh, and then this is straight up coal. So everything else that I excavated up to this point had been charcoal, but this was actually coal. So that's why I put it as if it was like a product to be sold, right? Or maybe that was going to be used by this shopkeeper in the furnace here.
Okay.
In this area, there was an iron of sus gravel, and then under it was charcoal. And so that's why I interpreted this as maybe some sort of like fireplace or something like that.
Okay.
This this actually was just like this. I left this as it was. At first I thought maybe this was a peaked roof, but I went and thought, well, maybe it's not a peaked roof because I didn't see any other evidence of a peaked roof in anywhere else in this building. So I thought maybe this was just a storing a supply of mud bricks, right? That it's just kind of stacked up. But But yeah, I wasn't quite clear. So I just kind of left it as I found it.
Okay. So then what is your interpretation of this building?
So I would think that this was owned by someone who works with clay and then sells, or manufactures different terracotta or terracotta-like products, right?
Okay.
Or does stone cutting of some sort.
Okay.
So that's my interpretation of that.
All right.
The wagon is my invention. This was nothing to lead me to believe that there was a wagon there. It was just a big open space, and because it was right next to the market, and then because I'm interpreting this site as a warehouse, I thought that a wagon made sense, in the recreation. But there's nothing to lead me to believe that there is actually a wagon here. To be clear about that, there were 3 areas here, and I left the hay bale where there was 2 wheat, so that's why I put some hay bales in there, as if this was a supply of wheat, and then I just left this one open, and then so there was some charcoal in this area, a charcoal in this area here, so that's why I put a table there. Again, similar kind of design for a little fireplace going up, and then these. What are these? The cauldrons I left as is. So I actually this part of why I put the wagon there is like maybe they did some sort of like wagon repair or like quenching of something or whatnot, not really sure. Wagon wheel repair or something. This area was all charcoal in here, pretty much. So that's why I basically put different kinds of wood in here from a wood supply perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. This I kind of did up as a forge. I know there's a smith right across the street, which we haven't talked about yet, but I did this one up as a forge because of the blast furnace. So maybe this is a smith as well with an anvil. This confused me a little bit. There's a little floating furnace way up high.
Okay.
And so that didn't make a ton of sense to me at all as to why it was up high, because there was clearly a floor structure, but there was mud brick under it and mud brick over it. And so I couldn't make hide nor hair of what was going on with that. Like the strata just didn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
So the way I mocked it up is like, and there was like charcoal all around here. There was like these stairs that were all in here. So I just interpreted the stairs as like maybe going up to a roof. There was a single one of these slabs. I think it was like there, I think. So that's why I did the roof like I did with these wooden slabs. But I basically just put the furnace up there. Maybe they're like, I don't know, taking wood and putting it up high, and then just like that way they could feed it in. But I don't know. Maybe there was a chimney, but I don't know. I didn't really know what to do with that. Yeah, let's see. We haven't done let's see, this one across
The
the
other
street.
side of the
have we?
road, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, this one.
So this one here, this building here confused me a little bit, both structurally and kind of purpose-wise as well. So, and it wasn't so much purpose as far as what I found, but purpose as far as what I didn't find. So, excavating it, these were on the ground here. And so my first inclination was like, oh, well, it's a step up, right? So now we have an elevation change. But this has been the foundation for like all of these structures, either this deep slate or the cobblestone foundation. And so it was pretty clear where I thought the walls were. And it seemed odd that it would step up, but then there was nothing on the other side to indicate stairs going back down. And so it seemed odd that you'd have a step up and then have a 3-foot drop going down on the other side. So that's why I interpreted it as maybe if there was an earthquake, there was maybe a mud brick eave or something like that, and then this whole area above us like just collapsed, because literally it was just a line of, I think it looked like this, you know? And so it literally was this whole section just fell straight down. Is kind of how I interpret it. I don't know if I'm right. It seems odd that you'd have a mud brick eave like that. But you know, and I was also thinking like maybe there's something that like comes off, you know, like this, and then, you know, maybe there's, you know, what is it, something like, you know, something like this that would come up, you know. But again, I wasn't seeing anything archaeologically that would lead me to believe that, right? So I kind of left it as I was seeing it archaeologically. There was this here smithing table, right smack dab in the middle of this little opening. The door is here again, similar with the area. I put the little fireplace area is what I mean, and then I put the pillars or the structure above where I did because of you know, where I found lines of the charcoal, and then I put these tables kind of hedging a little bit, where it's like if this is a work area for a smith, they're going to need places to work, and there's charcoal. So maybe if there were tables, those would potentially leave charcoal if there was a fire situation. But the thing that confused me about this being a smith is there's no anvil. Like I would expect, having found iron on the site, to have found an anvil somewhere. There's clearly a workbench here, you know, it's a smithing table, right? But you know, beyond this, I didn't find any other tools, but yeah, you know, or anything else that let any other artifacts. So this was basically this smithing table, and then, you know, just charcoal, and that was literally, oh, and then the single piece of iron that indicated what I thought was a grate. But beyond that, there was nothing that really lent itself to how this should be decorated.
Okay, so you think this is a smith doing what now?
Working on smithy things. I don't know.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Like it could be that it's not even like a metalsmith, right? It could be that it's a woodworking or whatever. Because I'm not sure what what, you know, because, you know, the smithing table has a whole bunch of kind of tools around it, right?
Right.
And so what exactly they would be working on, I'm not totally sure. I just know that, you know, this is clearly a workbench with tools around it, and then there was charcoal in the areas where these tables were. This thing initially I was calling a fountain, but it went a different direction. And I was calling it a fountain because all of these were on the ground, right? You know, as there actually was going the other direction, right? All the way around. And so it looked initially like this was a fountain, and then this was like a little area where maybe you know, go in and fill a bucket. Because this isn't a fountain, one of the things that confuses me just generally about this site is there's no water source. Like, there's a river, I think, out over this direction. There's a sea and potentially an ocean, but I have no idea if there's salt water or not. So if there's salt water, I have no idea. Like, there's no wells. There's nothing like that So, like, I at first thought this was a fountain, and this is where this city's getting its water supply from. But, again, don't know where they're getting their water from, but I kind of moved on from that theory and interpreted this as an altar. There was a single piece of charcoal, and honestly, you're not going to find a single piece of charcoal, I don't think, in a fountain, you know?
Right, okay.
It seems kind of... And then there was, like, what looked like kind of a more ceremonial, you know, certainly based on what I saw in other areas of the site. So essentially, foundation with, like, a 2-pillar item on top of it. This one happened to be 3, you know. So, but like that third one was like here, so I wasn't sure if it was just part of the, you know, the pillar or part of the just the structure that had fallen, you know, in what I'm calling an earthquake. So I just left it at 2 so it was consistent with the other 2, but potentially it should look like that, you know. But for symmetry's sake, I just made it 2. I also, this structure had no walls, so these mud brick walls. But what it did have are mud brick stairs and slabs, so that it looked like. Do I have any? Oh, I don't have any actually. I was going to grab a stair so I could show you. But it had a stair in a configuration that it looked like maybe it was a wall that had fallen over, right? So it's like if you just take this and then like rotate it 90 degrees, as if this whole thing kind of fell in a spiral pattern, because it was essentially like, you know, like that and then like that, you know. So it's like the stairs kind of went in a circle pattern. So I figured if these walls kind of fell to the side, they'd make a stair-looking structure. Yeah, so that's kind of why I interpreted it like I did, with a little opening for the fire to go up. And I took this whole structure of stone, and instead of being around the base, I just raised it up. Because it seemed symmetrical. And if that whole thing all collapsed, like if you think of the walls falling down, then it would basically just collapse straight downwards, right? So that's kind of why I just pulled it up 2 blocks. Okay, so this I called the House of the Scholar. And this is the only location beyond the temple complex that had pitcher pods and torch flowers, and they were located here. This one had this lectern and a little fireplace area, some charcoal, which I kind of put as logs for the fireplace, and then it had some books, and so I put the little areas here. I put the ladder kind of going up to the roof, you know, because that seemed to make sense based on what I was seeing there. And then I just kind of copied it a little bit on the opposite side, because this was mostly a structure, a mirror image, one to the next. So this was books there, again a fireplace, more logs. This had a cartography table. This one, the thing about this site that confused me a little bit is this is the only site that had, from a flooring, this mud brick. So normally the mud brick was only wall structure, where this had mud brick on the floors. And so I thought maybe there's like, I don't know, so this represented some stairs that then were going up to a second floor that then fell over, but there was nothing underneath it. It was all just dirt. So I would have expected there to be, you know, some sort of flooring like I'm seeing here underneath that mud brick, because it would have been layered on top of it. No idea what these 3 walls were for there, so I just kind of left them like they were. I'm not sure if this should have been, you know, and then maybe like a canopy, you know, overlapping. I thought to maybe do that, but I also didn't see any more mud brick walls. So I would have thought that I would have seen something in the courtyard here to lend me to that interpretation. So because I didn't, I just kind of left it as a little bit of a mystery.
Gotcha.
So,
so then what is this structure then? What's the purpose of the structure?
So I think the purpose of the structure is for scholars to work out of. So likely related to the temple complex. So whether priests or religious scholars, or maybe it's a library or a house of learning or something like that. Because you see a cartography table and you see a lectern, and those are both items that you see within the temple. You see the pitcher pods and the torch flowers, and that's also items you see in the temple garden. So, this I interpreted, I was calling this the House of Black and White. So initially, although I'm kind of calling it like the Temple of Black and White, or the Temple Complex of Black and White right now. Originally, I wasn't sure if this was just maybe like a royal residence or a nobility residence, or whether or not it was going to be some sort of religious building. I interpreted it as a religious building. I made the pillars 5 tall because I think it was this one was actually found laying, you know, kind of 5 long, and then this kind of like this, you know. So I judged the height based on the tallest pillar that I found in the structure. And then I assumed that, and I didn't have enough material on the site to then make all of them 5, but I figured maybe someone came in later and stole them. That happens archaeologically, right? People reuse material instead of having to mine it themselves. So I didn't think that was that much of a leap of an interpretation. I didn't extend the roof over to the pillars because there was none of this deep slate. Like, I would have thought that I would have found deep slate here. And in fact, I didn't find deep slate, which I interpreted as the roof based on the fact that it was the top level, right? So either it was on the top of the wall structure here, or it was the top level found within each of these structures. So I figured that was the roof tiles, but I didn't find it outside of the walls anywhere. So like if there was a overhang, I would have thought that I would have found it like laying over here, right? Or I would have found it laying, out back behind. But I didn't see any of that. So I interpreted it kind of as a flat roof that then just meets the wall. And then when there was the earthquake, it collapsed inward. But I didn't see anything on the outside. So, but that's also why I didn't extend it, and why actually the pillars are taller than the actual temple itself, because the temple, I judged the walls based on the height of the wall structure that I found. So, heading in here, I put these where I found them, essentially, and there were some books here at this entrance, so I put them in a bookcase. But yeah, this pottery there's some broken potsherds here. Coming around here, there's a lectern, some more potsherds. There was this random spruce plank that was sitting here. But it didn't seem like that was part of the ceiling, because throughout this whole area, there was these polished diorite slabs and diorite slabs. So how it looked is like they would be laying on the ground, and then there would literally be the deep slate tile right on top of it. So I interpret it as like this is the roof, or this is the ceiling, right? And then the deep slate tiles is the roof. So
okay.
This is where the cartography table was, with some potsherds, right? Some plenty potsherds laying around here, as well as the sheaf. Is that what this one's called?
Yep, sheaf. Yep.
This door wasn't here, but I used this door interpretation because that was the door on the far side of this room. But this is another entrance here into the temple. So you go right or left. This was a cool room. So this I interpreted as this was full of those mosaic tiles, this glazed terracotta, all on the floor. And so what I did is, because the floor was already finished in this kind of design, I assumed that this was actually a roof structure that then had fallen and collapsed. So what I did is I tried to recreate what that looked like from the ceiling coming down. And so I kind of did it in the sun shape, because that's what it kind of looked like to me. Not every single mosaic tile matched up. Like, I didn't just take it from ground level and then just like bring it all the way up, but I did it with enough of those so that I could get a sense of kind of what this looked like. So I interpreted this mosaic as there's a central sun with a sky surrounding it, and then grass around the outside, right? So it's like earth, sky, sun, essentially. So yeah, so this door actually was this door, so that's why I brought it in. There wasn't anything in this area that led me to guess what this room was for, beyond maybe just like a vestibule to or to bridge the different sections of the temple complex, because again, this walks right out, and that's also why I interpreted this as an altar, right? Because it's like right out the door of the temple. So maybe that's a divided space, right? So maybe this area is for doing sacrifices of whatever for the common people or the rest of the people in the settlement, but then this area in here, whether it's the mosaic room or over here, are in the rest of the temple complex is for, I don't know, other people, right? Priests or whatnot. Now this, I noticed on the top of the tell before I excavated, there was this acacia log. So the acacia was on the top above this temple complex. And so what I interpret, and there wasn't, acacia is not native to this specific biome, so I interpreted that as like a long remnant of trees that maybe had some kind of cultural or religious significance to this structure. So that's so when I excavated this out, there was a single piece of dirt here where the floor wasn't, and it kind of corresponded to where the acacia was. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna maybe make this a holy tree within the structure. It's right by where I think this window is, which would give it some light. So that's what I did here. This is kind of like a Holy of Holies area. I don't know if you'd want to call it that specifically, but specifically divided, right? Where there's this light, and then there was these, the soul sand was located kind of where you were standing that had fallen down. So there's a pillar of that. So I kind of stood the pillar up. This reminded me of the foundation and the 2 mud bricks from where I interpreted the altar.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's also why I kind of brought that theme out there. There was a little brewing stand, a chest, these banners I just put in place to kind of subdivide the space, because normally if you're going to see a temple, and you're going to see a holy area, you're not usually just going to have an open space that anyone can walk in, right? It's going to be divided by some sort of, liminal foyer. And I was thinking maybe of that Hittite temple, where it's just here's a space, only high priests can walk into this area, religious officials, or maybe the king.
Right.
And so that's kind of why I divided it like this. This was kind of a porch area, and then that overlooked the garden. And then outside in the garden, there was more acacia. I put acacia where there was a scattering of charcoal. So I thought maybe the acacia had burned in the fire. And then there was these pitcher pods and torch flowers in this area. Okay. So yeah. And then generally speaking, in this, if you hover over here above the temple, I mostly made it flat roofs, except where I thought archaeologically it made sense. So it's like in this area below it, there was these stairs, and so I kind of copied over a stair design instead of doing it a flat roof. And then same thing here. There was the area of the temple, where I'm calling it temple, was higher, specifically in this area, so I kind of built it up and then pulled it back down. And then I put none of this deep slate tile over this specific area, because in where the vestibule and then in the holy room, there was just the diorite slabs. There was none of the deep slate tiles over that area. So I thought that maybe the roof itself even was left kind of this more pure white color. So, okay. Oh, the other thing I should note before you start asking questions, I went around, and you can see these test trenches kind of further out. I was looking for city walls, didn't find any city walls. I was looking for roads leading to and from the settlement, didn't find any roads. Over here where I thought there was maybe a harbor, I put some shovel tests in out over this area to see if there was any structures here. I did 5 by 5 meters. Didn't find anything there. So I did kind of search outside of the surrounding areas for any of the anything else beyond just what was in this tell. But
as one does. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
So you can ask your questions. We'll see if I have any answers for them.
So purpose of this, you're calling this a temple complex?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then if it's a temple complex, why the lectern and the cartography table? What is going on here?
My interpretation is that normally, or at least make a generalization, in a lot of ancient cultures, temples doubled as places of learning and education. And so that's why I didn't think it was at all unusual to see a lectern, books, or a cartography table. So maybe this area of the temple complex is one that's used for learning, right? Or educating high-class individuals or royal, or noble family individuals, or just priests, right? I mean, it borders, right? It kind of called out that what I was calling the House of the Scholars, right, has the same areas, right? Has a cartography table and a lectern, and it's also separate, right? So it's like this is a separate building from then this building. So it's not. It's like I think this could have a religious function, and the building over in the same complex could have an educational purpose, without really conflicting the interpretation.
Okay, so education, religion, and then this one.
I thought this was maybe a liminal space, right? So this is a physical separation area, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were no artifacts here. There was nothing that led me to believe that, maybe people just sat around and chatted here. Or maybe it literally was a physical liminal space that separated, the one area from the next.
Okay. In your professional opinion, show me if you think there are divisions in this settlement, and where you think they are and what it means.
Yeah, so I think divisions are clearly identifiable by the foundations used in these buildings to the south. All have the cobblestone foundation. Okay. So I would call this, lower skill crafts and or lower residential. Lower class residential. Then you're moving into the market. Oftentimes market areas are lower class as well, or lower status. And then you start moving into the more higher class craft areas, right? And you even see that in the transition in the foundation, right? With the deep slate. This one even has some like chiseled deep slate, right? And has some chiseled bricks. But again, so like stonework, higher class area, and then smithing, metalworking, oftentimes higher class crafts. And then you transition then into scholarly pursuits and areas of learning, and then you move into the highest class area, which would then be the what I'm calling the temple complex and temple garden. And then this altar then being a religious area for essentially this middle class, or potentially even lower class area, right? So, So that those would be the distinctions that I would raise. The other things I would say is that the roads progress out this way, right? In this kind of crafts area where you're not seeing roads going in these other areas, right? It's a central road and that's it, right? And the roads get wider in this area. So there's a lot of reasons I think to interpret, the south of this village or settlement being lower class, moving to higher class, continuing higher class as you go further to the north. I mean, just even the shiny white quartz pillars and all that stuff.
Okay, so that was very nice. I suppose you all want to see each other's builds, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's a village. Wow, someone did a whole village. That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you are so much more pro than me. Look at that. Like all the little thing with the sign.
Yeah, so I started over here with the left, and I took down all the dirt and then made my first kind of map schematic, so I kind of had an idea of where everything was, and I collected up all the dirt and stuff.
You saved all the dirt and the flowers and the saplings.
We had to, sift for, lost shards or whatever, and then I kept making maps as I went until the final product. And then I have books of each of the phases.
Oh, look at this first one. This is cool. It's like you had started the top of the excavation.
Yep.
So
just
cool.
Down to the first touches of gravel. So I got it down like 3 levels or so and got to the first touches of gravel. And then after that, once I got most of the gravel out, and then all of the gravel and everything that was toppled was this map. So this basically left it down to the floors and some of the foundations, and then the last one's after I rebuilt it.
Nice.
So was that village there before, or did you build the village?
Yeah, he actually spawns me in that little house over there.
Oh, you didn't have a tent, you had an actual house?
Yeah, I got the little house, so...
I'm jealous.
So then the
Oh, Harold
orientation
knows that's
wasn't
how
the
it goes
same.
sometimes.
That's how it goes
So
sometimes.
yeah,
That is-
I assumed everyone's going to be the same orientation, but no, that's
Nope.
interesting. Okay.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah. So I took it
Oh,
down
this
as
is
much as I
beautiful.
could and then rebuilt with the materials that I found, basically. So if I found mud brick or I found bamboo in a build or I found spruce in a build, that's what I rebuilt it with. And then the only
Nice.
kind of like other thing that I did that wasn't something I found was the wool, because obviously the wool for the marketplace probably wouldn't have existed. So, and I don't know whether it was like actual wood or whatever, or
Mhm.
even if it was open air, but I decided to make it like this where I was tented over. And then
This
the
is
brick.
smart. The little iron gates around the fire. I did something a little bit different with that.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what to do with the little tiny bits of metal, like the iron ingots that I found near the fireplaces, because I found them in a couple different ones. So
I did the same thing that you did, like a little grate. Literally,
cool.
the
There's
exact same
so
thing.
many things that a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of you
there's-
did that were the same.
that were the same.
Yeah, like there'd be like one of you three would do something completely different, but the other two would do the exact same.
The same
Nice.
thing.
Yeah, you'll see it. You'll be like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's like I'm like, it could be a metal thing, it could be a chain, it could be something else. I don't know. It could have been just a representation for the flint and steel that used to light the thing. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just gonna.
Gosh, I'm so stupid. Chimneys above those fire pits is just brilliant. I didn't think of that. Oh, that's so cool.
Animal pens, manure,
So, yep,
fertilizer.
and then
Okay. Leathersmith.
See,
Leather-
leather worker. That makes
leathersmith
more
with a
sense.
leather worker.
So
that had because
you
of the
followed
cauldrons.
the villager
Yep,
Professions. Yeah,
professions. Okay.
yep.
that's smart.
That's why I ended up adding in this stone cutter, even though that didn't exist. There was like a piece of metal here.
Yeah, there's like iron right there. Exactly.
There was
Oh
like
my
an iron ingot. So
God,
yeah.
I did the
Right.
exact same thing. As I was like, I'm going to interpret that as a stone
Yep.
cutter.
Yep.
Oh, even with mine, I was like, yeah, because of the ingot in here, I did the thing, and then Daskalos was like, there were 2 irons, right? And I'm like, oh God, there was. All right, the other one was more.
I like the idea of animal pens. I went a different direction. You'll see when we do mine, but I like
Yeah.
I like the idea of animal pens here. I like what
See,
you
I
did with the
thought
roofs
two
too.
different things, like either manure, like it was big piles of manure, or it was just the actual animals. And I'm like, yeah, the animals would make sense too, because maybe they would bring it in before they used it for the leather work. I'm still like absolutely baffled by what to do with that because of that stupid stone furnace that was hovering in the air that was up 2
The
blocks.
furnace
away.
that had like
Yeah.
wall pieces underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah. That one I can't wait to see the actual build. 'cause
Yeah,
that's
that
been
threw
bugging
everyone
me
for a
for
loop.
like that's been
Yeah.
bugging me. So
Look-
that's why I
looking
ended
forward
up
to-
just leaving that alone because I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh, cool. You did the pavilion thing too. Oh, okay. So you did those stone as if they were the roof and then fell
Yeah, because the
down.
brick
That's
were
so
underneath
cool.
it, and that was like I'm like, well, why would the brick be
That's
underneath?
a good point.
And then
If
the
the brick was under it.
and then the cobbled deep slate were in all 4 corners perfectly. So I'm like, well, that
Mhm.
sounds like it would be like a raised
Yep.
platform or
Mhm.
something.
Very interesting.
So I know
like
you
that.
guys were like wondering about the terracotta. Come see what I did
gotta
with
see
the
what you did with
terracotta.
that. I gotta see what you did.
This is
like
what I
this
did
sort
with
of
the
thing.
terracotta.
Okay.
Very similar to, well, similar, but yours looks way better.
Now here's a question for you two. What did you interpret the lichen as that was down in here? Because I could not figure out the heck what the glow lichen was
I just
for.
put it as more decoration on the
It's more
ceiling.
decoration in the ceiling. Okay,
Yep.
that's what I ended up doing. What about you, Harold?
Yeah, I just put it in the ceiling as if it was like water coming through, like just leaks in the ceiling, but I didn't have any good rationale for that.
Okay. Very curious now.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about the hoppers?
Yeah.
Did I? Was
The
that
hoppers only
decorative?
there were no, there was charcoal, so I'm like I could opt for like fires or just torches or something because I figured that it seemed, but I felt like it would be like a little bit more obvious, but that was why I put those up there.
And then what did you do in these rooms? Oh yeah, okay. This looks similar. Yep.
Yeah, just use the fallen, andesite and stuff.
So there was
for
like a
ceilings.
spruce slab in one of these, I think.
Yeah.
Did you have that?
Yeah. It was right,
Yeah,
right
I only
here.
interpreted that as bookshelves or leftovers
Oh,
of
okay,
bookshelves since there was
That's
bookshelves.
books
Okay,
in
yeah.
Good way
here.
to do it.
Cool. I
And
did the
then-
same thing with the plants here, like a little
Yep, 'cause
courtyard
the little
leading into the
seeds.
building.
I did not do that. I thought about doing that, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So
Yep.
I left
And the way this mud brick stuck out like this, I kept that as an architectural feature as well.
Yep.
Pretty cool. Oh, and you said this was a library. Oh, I went a totally different way on that.
Oh. Only because there were books.
Place
That
of
was the only
worship,
reason
yeah.
I did.
Place of worship. That's what I thought.
And
Yep.
then, cleric.
I want to
village, or
see what you
house.
did in here, cleric. Oh, wow.
So you separated these completely. Interesting. Okay.
Interesting. I love the
Yeah.
idea of
Yeah.
the tall ones were just in part of that's a brilliant. I like that. I
Yeah.
really like that.
Because there wasn't any like calcite in between here, and it was all of these basalt. That's why I separated them. And then there wasn't like a ceiling. There was like the awning. I kind of interpreted it as an awning because there wasn't like this diorite or
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah, underneath. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This room stumped me, and I'm still like I keep debating on it, even like weeks later. Going, I hated this. Like, it felt like it was either arches or a staircase or something leading upstairs, and then I like thought like last night, I'm like, oh,
Arches
I
is
could have made
good.
that into a balcony up there or something, and that would have been kind of cool too.
Arches is good. I like that.
And I
Yay!
did.
I'm not the only one who
Who did the
got
gardens?
the acacia trees.
Oh, you put the acacia
Oh,
trees back. Ah, yay!
Yep.
That
There
was
were
like
acacia- there were
the
acacia
thing
trees
that
on
like
the mound.
stood out to me. I was like, what the heck's with these acacia trees? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to put those back.
Of course, your garden looks way better than mine.
I like what you did with the houses too. I struggled with trying to do the
Small
houses in a
personal
way that
dwelling.
made sense
Oh
to me.
yeah. Yeah, I have built
Like
so
your
many
freaking
actual like,
shepherd.
Minecraft villager house size houses. I was like, I'm just gonna make them just like a Minecraft house village,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and the cobblestone like foundations were almost perfectly sized for that.
So you did the same thing I did, where you got the oak pillars as the support for the packed mud.
Oh, yep.
Yep, because there
Yep,
was that
and I
oak. There was that oak
replicated
log
that.
that was on the down under here somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Oh.
over here.
Well, should we go to the next one?
Nice.
Sure.
This,
This
is
is
awesome,
amazing.
Millie.
This is great,
This looks
yeah.
really good. I knew yours would look better than mine.
Yeah, your roofs look so much better than what I did. Oh,
See,
you
I didn't
did-
get a house. I just got a little tent, but that's okay.
Oh,
We
you
lived
got a
in the
little
Well,
tent
tent.
look
the
at
ancient
look at
city.
Oh, you
all
got
the
cute
the
little
cool
maps,
stuff
too.
around you. This
Ooh.
is like crazy world generation.
Oh yeah, they have all these
Oh,
weird
gosh.
like, mountain
Yeah.
things in the back
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh, you got the ice biomes too, like
Ice spikes over there.
the
Yeah.
ice spikes. I
Okay.
had ice spikes not too far away from mine.
Mhm.
I like your little maps. Those are
So I did
cool.
my little map. So I actually did.
Oh,
the
you gridded
grid.
it out.
I did the
Sweet.
grid, yeah, so I could excavate them in the grids, and
Yep.
so that was the mound before. This is the after excavation, and then this is after cleaning up the debris and fixing the floors,
Yep.
and then I removed the grid for the recreation, and that is the final map.
Did you?
Oh,
What did you
nice.
make the grid out of?
Lightning rods. It was the goofiest, worst thing to work with,
Really?
but it showed
And
up
was
on
it
the
laying
map.
on the ground like that, like lightning rods on the ground, or was
like
it up
like
in the
a
sky?
like a I did it a square above the ground, so
Okay.
like if the dirt was there, I would do a line of them like this.
Oh,
Okay.
that would
And
have
then
been
if
difficult
the
to-
dirt went up, I would basically like
Oh,
do
interesting.
that. It looked so bad, but it looks good for the map.
That's great. Yeah. Okay.
You'll see it in my
Nice.
video. It looks ridiculous.
That's all right.
Nice.
You'll see what I did.
So I went very, very flat and boring because I didn't know how to I first started putting peaked roofs, and then I stopped. I'm like, I don't actually know. So I just made them flat.
Okay.
So this one, I actually interpreted the bamboo as like mats, like beds.
Oh, okay. So sleeping mats. All right.
Okay.
Into
Mhm.
Tommy or something like that.
And I interpreted all the charcoal that I was finding as if the place burned down. And
I thought the
charcoal
same
was wood
thing. That
remnants,
was-
so that's
that
why I
was-
made sure that they were all like wooden roofs where I was finding the charcoal.
Nice.
So I assumed that this was just housing, right? So this was just housing for like the artisans, and this was more like
Ah.
housing for like the commoners, the workers. Didn't even think about the actual professions. Just that okay, there's some workbenches in there that they
Mhm.
need, but
Yeah,
I
I
like
like how
how-
you separated
I like
out the
how you-
buildings. Very similar.
Yeah, I was gonna
Mhm.
say like the style of the buildings looks the same between you and Millie, where it's
Yep.
like foundation pillars with the oak and then mud brick for the walls.
yep, because the foundation blocks there was never like multiples stacked up. They were all just one layer. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, so that had to have just been like a foundation layer. And then
I
the
like
market
that you made the
stalls.
market stalls. That's cool. I like that.
Yep.
Oh, you found bread and potatoes?
No, well, there was wheat
Oh.
and potatoes over there. So
Oh,
I
okay. So
assumed that
you
these
added it
two
into some of these.
I assumed these were like the cooked food portion of the market. The
Yeah.
lamppost, yeah. Yep. So I figured, so this one over here had 4 pieces. So I'm like, okay, it was probably 4 high, and there was nothing then to attach the lamps to. So I'm like, okay, so maybe the tops were wood, which would have counted.
Yeah, I like the look of those. Those look nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these stalls over here with the bones, I figured this was like fresh butchered meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's how I interpreted those
Cool.
two.
And this is my little building.
Oh, you built up
I
the
actually,
walls. That's cool. I like
yep,
that.
and I did acacia roofs for these because I figured if they had acacia trees, they had to use them for something. So I put the acacia roofs on these. This is how I interpreted the little fire pit. Was like this was like a hook on the wall that they could hang like cooking
that's cool
pots
idea,
or
actually.
anything from.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like your wall here with the open slots.
Yeah.
To let air
So
flow through.
that one chunk that was down here that had all those little stairs, I figured like that's my one indication of an actual architectural structure. So I was like, okay, so maybe that was like some kind of windows or air vents. So then I started making all of the little windows in here with stairs.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that bit really confusing as well. I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I assumed it was just like a chunk of that wall that had fallen off, like kind of intact. And so I just put it up on top of there. But I probably dropped the ball on that, especially if there was a nice line of them out front.
That one.
I'm sure that we're going to be thinking of a lot of stuff once we see Daskalos. We're like, oh, that's what that.
Yep. And then you did
because
the
I figured
stalls
these
too.
2 buildings here with the acacia roofs, I figured those were like the work buildings. This I assumed that the front here was stables, and this would be for like visitors, and this was kind of like a tavern and inn. Like this would have been like a tavern hall, maybe a kitchen back here, and maybe like some guest quarters for like visitors to stay in the back. So I interpreted this as like a little tavern place the visitors could get a meal and
it's a cool way of interpreting it.
Yeah, it's so interesting seeing both yours and Milly's.
See, I
being
like your...
oh, I wish I did this little thing. Like I think I like Milly's T-shaped better than the one I did. I mean, I like from a Minecraft perspective this, but like I think if I would have seen how Milly interpreted these lampposts, I would have absolutely done that based on what I saw.
Oh, totally. That's why I was going to do it first with the walls, but I'm like, I'll just do them like this because I did only find the most 4 wall pieces on one of them.
Oh man, maybe we should have done one where all 3 of you work together to knock one of these out. That would have been wild. Yeah.
So I kept these stone. I figured these were the actual benches people would sit around this fire.
That's interesting.
And because there was so much, because there was so much of the mud bricks here, I'm like, the pavilion had to have been built from mud bricks, but that would just collapse. So I'm like, there had to be a wooden structure holding them up
to hold it up. Yeah.
And it just fit with there were notches in the stairs in these 4 places. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Nice. Okay, let's see what you did in this one. Okay.
Pretty plain. I didn't really know how to interpret this one. I was like, well, obviously there was some smithing going on here, but the one in the outdoor courtyard felt more like a smithy than an indoor one. Yeah. I didn't know what to do, so I just put the furnace on the floor.
Just put the furnace on the floor.
Stupid furnace.
Nice. I like your use of banners in through here too. Like that was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, that was there's a couple places I stuck those
give it just a little something from a Minecraft, decoration perspective. I approve.
Yep. So this is how I did those little front wall pieces all the way to the ceiling that they kind of supported that little ceiling.
Fire pits in the corners. Yeah, I like those.
Yeah, that's nice. Interesting, both you and Milly carried the ceiling over to the pillars. You'll see what I did.
Yeah, I built it, then I took it down, and I tried something else. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna put the ceiling because there weren't ceiling pieces I don't think found out front here, so I wasn't really sure what to do with that.
Oh, okay. You changed up this room.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
assuming. See, I kind of treated these rooms as more like a
Storerooms.
vault, like storerooms for valuables, because especially since the pots had like treasure chests and wheat
Oh,
on
yep.
them, I
And then
figured.
that's where you put your spruce. Okay.
Yep, and then like
Yeah,
the
yeah, I like that.
bookkeeper to track what's coming in and out of the storehouse and stuff.
What were you thinking about the diorite? Was that just
Diorite? I
Was that-
struggled with the diorite.
okay?
I assume the polished diorite bits in these two were just degraded calcite.
Ah,
But then when I went looking back on this one, there was too many stairs in a row against this wall. So I'm like, okay, so maybe these were the benches.
I like your
So this
lichen
is how I did
interpretation.
this.
Yeah.
It's like a
I
border.
also like having the open roof up there. That's cool with the light coming
Yep.
down. That's neat.
Yep, I figured if everyone, maybe like at noon they come in to worship, and then like the spiritual leader stands in the middle
See,
with the sunbeam lighting them up.
I almost thought that this was seating, and I almost left it, except for the fact that the floors continued underneath them. But
Yep.
but I do like it like this. I almost put it back in because I did like how the stairs look like in the room.
Yep, I agree. I almost did that.
Ooh, yours is way taller.
Yeah, well, because I just made the whole thing as tall as the tallest wall part. That's why I like yours better. I like the tiered. I like your tiered one better.
Yeah, see, this makes more sense though with the way the wall is though because of those pieces. So I can't wait to see what that is because I kept getting stumped on that. And I like that we all like did carry the warped wood all the way through too.
Yep, nice. Yep, I
Yeah, you
interpreted
did
all this diorite
seconds.
as a second
Yep.
floor because
Yep.
the walls were tall enough to support it,
That's
and
smart.
the diorite was in between.
Yep.
Because I was like, if the polished diorite bits over there were degraded calcite, then what's up with all this raw diorite? It's
With
just
all
too
the
much
raw
of it.
diorite, yeah.
So
I
what did you
interpreted that as
interpret
a floor.
this structure as?
I just like I called it the royals' residence. So like this would be like the residence of like the town leaders.
Okay.
The leaders, maybe the cleric, the priest, and the leaders.
Yeah, cool.
Ooh,
And then
spruce.
I did because I figured like the spruce trees and the acacia
Yeah,
trees are not
garden
natural to
in
here,
there.
so they had to be growing both of them in the garden. And then there's my
Nice.
little tree.
Yeah, that's what was really hard about it, to try and, at least for me, was to try and figure out how much do I interpret as just like lost or stolen material, right? And how much of it is, and try and make it uniform, and how much of it is like, maybe there's a break in the wall because there just never was wall there, you know?
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, same thing with a lot of the material here.
Nice. Looks
I like
good.
it.
I like how close everybody like we've
Mhm.
been so far. Like there's been a lot of similarities, which is really good. Which is cool.
All right. I'm ready to see Harold's.
All right.
Oh wow. Oh my god. Look at all the maps. This is awesome. Holy cow.
Yeah, so
That's
I did a
lot of
map.
different
I
stages.
did a bunch of different kinds of phases. So like you don't see the redstone lines. So like this whole like kind of maps 2 and 3. I had a grid over everything, and you'll see a grid when you kind of walk out there. I left it more as an archaeological site, I think, than either of you did. And I left the area around, and I only excavated out the actual structures. And then these are all a whole bunch of test trenches that I did while I was trying to find the perimeter of the site.
Oh, neat. Okay.
And then I left, you can see it actually really well in this partial excavation. So you can see the bulk that I left. So those are the lines. So I left the redstone lines in place as I was excavating, and then removed them as I rebuilt the structure.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And then this big chest monster over here, every chest corresponds to a grid square. And so everything that I excavated out of each grid went into the exact chest that corresponded to that grid square.
Oh my gosh.
So
Archaeology, everybody.
I only kept like the artifact. I was gonna keep the dirt, but then I was like, nah, they would just discard that. I think I just kept the artifacts.
yeah.
No, they totally won't until they've sifted through everything.
Yep.
Oh,
This is how we can make all of our statements about certain places and things.
All the bones, all the beads, all the pottery shards, all the everything. Yep.
And so the red things above as you look out into the distance. So Daskalos had said that the site was within 100 blocks of the campsite. So I went around and did a field survey, or like 100 blocks around the whole thing, to look for, because I didn't want to just assume it was a single site. So I looked kind of throughout the whole of the landscape, and then I narrowed in, and that's the blue area is where I narrowed in and thought the site was. And so that's what I gridded out.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
he also has a cool little landscape feature too behind his camp.
Oh yeah, this
this
awesome
bowl.
cherry.
Yeah.
Check this out over here.
Oh, you got one of those like the cherry grove like rings.
Oh, nice. With big lava. Cool.
Yeah.
That is
That's nice.
Yeah, and then the harbor over here on the far side, like I talk about that a ton in my episode about how this would be a port town and that the harbor would be closer to the harbor, and it's how it's a protected harbor because of this, that, or the other thing, and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh yeah, look at these
there's
test
the
holes looking for stuff. Okay, this is cool.
Yep. So I did a lot where I just didn't rebuild. Like I just kept it to the natural. Like you can see that in the road, right? I left the road exactly as it was and just identified it as a road.
Oh, okay.
And then the houses.
Ooh,
the houses
nice.
look like the house, like your houses, but I did different kinds of roof structures for each one, just because I didn't know what the interpretation looked like.
Oh yeah, and you made them cute and quaint. I love this style.
Yeah.
Did you integrate the? Oh, here's your oak logs. They're like.
Yeah, I integrated them as roof beams because I
Oh.
noticed that between these two structures, the charcoal was laid out in lines, and so I interpreted that as roof beams that had burned, and it had fallen. And so I put the roof beams in conjunction with where those charcoal lines were.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, that's very
But yeah, I did it. I interpreted this as kind of a weaver's house and this as a butcher's house, you know, with kind of the... So I didn't correspond these things to the exact Minecraft villagers. And then in these houses, I put a campfire, because some of these houses had charcoal in specific locations. So I interpreted those as hearths, where a fire once was.
As opposed to just a burnt down.
Right. Yeah. In mine, it was the village, the town burned down, and it was all the.
Yeah, and
like
I interpret it as
tragic
well,
fire.
like an earthquake and then a fire destruction. So, and this is what
I like that you added chickens to give this area more life. I love that.
Yeah, because the chickens were my bones over here.
Oh, okay.
Chicken bones.
Oh, he did a light I see you did a light similar to mine too, because I didn't add it with the stone because of the fact there wasn't any of the stone here. So
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. And then there was just the single stone slab, so I did a grindstone in this one.
Oh yeah, because there weren't any
yeah,
grindstones
'cause-
around here. That's a great idea.
Yep. And then converted these into pots and that kind of stuff. Like this
Oh,
person
yep.
selling beer and this person selling wine or amphoras, like pottery, and
yep.
this person was so I kind of corresponded them, not to
Oh,
the
and
Minecraft
you, yep,
villagers.
you actually set the items out, like the glass vendor and the candles, and that's cool.
Yep.
I almost wanted to go that far, and I'm like,
Yep. And then this is the mason, kind of my terracotta shop. Terracotta, metal.
Oh, how
shop.
cool is
oh,
this?
cute.
I love
Oh,
this.
that's
This
cool.
feels like I'm at the flea market. This is awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, what did you
Okay, so yeah,
interpret
you
those
did the
bricks? Okay,
grindstone
you
as
interpreted the bricks as like the kilns too.
Yeah, like just like brick storage
Okay.
was essentially, just like
Oh, okay.
yeah. And then I did a little bit of a chimney here, but not
Yeah.
a big
And
chimney.
you did the metal just like you said that you'd done.
Yep.
Cool.
And then across the street here, I interpreted this as a warehouse.
Ooh,
So
look at
this
the
was
wagon.
Ooh, I
storing
like the little
hay,
wagon.
and then I
That's
put a little
cute.
wagon there to, and
Oh
then-
yeah,
Okay,
so
that would've
just
been
hay
storing the
storage.
hay.
Okay.
That's smart.
That's a cool idea.
and then
Oh, I
Yeah.
like the open ceiling on that with it. I have to
Me
steal
too.
some of these ideas for these
I know,
trellis
just for normal
ceilings, right?
builds. Like I love the feel of it.
yeah, and then the shader
Yeah.
pack that I'm doing. I don't know if you guys are running a shader pack.
Oh
but
yeah, you see them on the
y-
ground.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm running
you
a
see
shader.
you see the light coming through in those different designs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was
Love
so
that.
much charcoal here. I just assumed this was wood storage, right?
Wood storage.
That
Okay.
essentially all burnt up.
Cool. Yeah, every time it was like, okay, was it just the wooden roofs and beams that it was burnt for the charcoal? Was it actually a storage where they've kept the charcoal? Like, so hard to decide.
And then these weird stairs here I interpret as just like a way to get up to the roof, the flat roof.
Okay.
And then I just put a...
So you actually put the furnace on a shelf.
I did, yeah.
On a shelf. Hey, it's a better idea than what I had.
Yeah, I just gave up and put it on the floor.
Yeah. This was kind of the house of the scholars, you know? I didn't do... I like what you guys did better than what I just kind of left it, you know? Because I just thought this was like pitcher pod storage and, you know...
Oh, yeah.
The other storage, really, because I thought that these people were maybe the priests or the religious people that were then working in what I interpreted as a temple. So it's like cartographer side here and then scholar side there. And I put little bookshelves in there with a little ladder to lead up to the flat roof. So I didn't continue the roof over. I kept waffling back and forth. I made the roofs in each area as high as the largest part, kind of like Oda what you did. But like they varied building the building out of this, what I was interpreting as a temple complex. And so I varied the height based on each, what I was interpreting as like a separate building unit. So I didn't.
So now, did you guys do the pillars where like there was that one that looked like an intact one that had fallen down?
Yeah.
So that's the height. Yeah.
And so that was the height. And then I unified it. But I didn't bring the roof over because the walls didn't seem to be as high as the pillars, was my interpretation.
So in like would they ever have like an actual construction where there's pillars that aren't like attached to anything like this? See, that's why I kept going back and forth on it. I'm like, I don't imagine the pillars would have been there if they weren't supporting part of the roof.
So if I was going to make this as like a Greek or a Roman temple or something like that, then yeah, this wouldn't be the style I would go. But I don't know this is a Greek or Roman culture. Like I don't know what this culture's temples are.
Right.
That is true. Very true.
Yeah, and then the other reason why I didn't bring the roof over to these pillars, not only just the height, is I didn't see any of the roof structure going out over this line. Like so I would have thought that I would have
all the
seen
roof debris was in these
tiles.
buildings.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So I would have thought the tile would have gone out of that, if it was going over the pillars.
Yep, that's why I struggled. Like I had removed it at one point, and I'm like, nah, I put it back.
Yeah.
I really waffled back and forth with the polished diorite. I'm like, is it indicating something or is it just degraded calcite? I can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I interpreted that as my roof in most of the structure. And then so out here, that didn't have any diorite under it. So I just brought the roof line over as if this was like a liminal zone between the temple. And then I interpreted this kind of as like a holy area.
And there was I like the open nature
you got
of this
the
one.
little acacia trees too. Nice. We all picked up on the acacia trees.
And then this I interpreted kind of as like a holy of holies area. And then I stood like as if it was a pillar.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like these.
That's awesome.
I like the banners as the kind of the door sort of things, like separation. I
and
like
then
that
this
a lot.
looking out to the garden.
Oh, yep.
With the acacia.
You had the double, little higher walls there, but then otherwise you kept it lower.
Yeah, and open where there wasn't walls in there. And then this I interpreted as kind of a, like an altar of sorts for the village.
For the village.
Who maybe from a class perspective couldn't go and do anything in the temple, right?
Weren't allowed to do in the temple, but you'd have a place you could still send your prayers up or whatever.
Yeah.
I totally want to steal these roofs.
I know. I want to steal the roof designs. I want to I love how you did all of the marketplace with the different colors.
Such a cool look and feel when you walk into this building. It does. It feels like you're at like a flea market with this. Oh man.
Yeah, there's a couple of these that I'm like, oh, I did really well with these. And then there was others that I was like, I don't know about this one. This one sucks.
So you actually stood these three up. I was wondering about this because I was like, but even underneath the corner, there was a brick. And I'm like, oh gosh, are they support or are they just there?
I don't know. I mean, I was interpreting it as an earthquake, and then these pillars over here seem to fall to the south, or at least directionally for me, south.
Oh yeah, and so those would have fallen to the.
And then these lampstands, some of them seem to have tipped over too from a north-south perspective. So I interpreted that as just.
See, that's the difference between somebody who actually has had training and.
Oh, don't give me too much credit. I maybe kept this totally wrong. That was just my thoughts. Daskalos, be curious.
Yeah,
to see
but
what
you had
Daskalos is.
like oh wait, are they're aiming in a certain direction, which I didn't even think about. Like I didn't even.
I was never happy with the fact that like these only went one direction. Like I think you're going 2 here worked a lot better.
Yeah, the only reason I decided to go the 2 is because right at this other one back here, there were 2 lamps.
Yep.
Like there was just a...
Yeah,
Where
and
this
I just
one
set
fell
it
over,
here.
there were
Like
2
that was.
Yeah.
Nice.
I figured it had toppled and that it was like a double lamp, but
No,
that's the
absolutely.
only reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so fascinating how like close but
awesome.
different everybody's ideas were. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've seen each other's builds now,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yes.
sure you want to see the original.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, huh?
Something to keep in mind is that a lot of things you won't actually be able to get right. This isn't really an exercise in how close or how right you can get it. It's more of an exercise of how least wrong you can get it, more than anything else. So there are going to be some things that you're going to see that you would have never have gotten because there was no evidence left of them.
Mhm.
So don't beat yourself up, and it wasn't me setting you up or anything, but there's definitely some stuff that you guys got totally wrong, because there was just no evidence of it.
Right.
Also, there's a few things that one of you, depending on what we're talking about, one of you would get right and the rest would get wrong. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But if you're ready, we're going to teleport there, and it's going to be a big, giant, orange wool box.
Oh, hello.
Oh,
It
sight in the
sure is,
desert.
isn't it?
Yep. So there is the orange wool box. Now, I decided to put it in the desert because when I take away this orange box, you're going to see the grass, which is the extent of the site. So it's a really good
Okay.
sort of split between the dirt or the sand and the grass. So that's why I chose the desert to do this.
Mhm.
So if you are ready, I will do this and cue the Willy Wonka music.
Oh.
If you want to see paradise. Oh, sorry.
You'll get demonetized if you continue with that. Okay.
Promise they won't, but anyway. Oh.
Okay.
So
Wow.
let me go ahead and take you on a little tour. Here we have what I'm calling the lower class housing. This is single occupancy housing, bed, little table, with a sort of a thatched roof with the bamboo up top. And of course, it is just the packed mud with some oak supports on the corners. All 6 of these buildings are the exact same, inside and out.
Nice.
They've got a little bit of a peaked roof on all of them, as one expects from thatch, with a little bit of overhang, which one expects from thatch. So yeah, that's the lower class housing is what I'm calling it. Now, as we come down here, you will notice that you guys did get the lamps, the street lamps, mostly correct. So that's good.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then through here, you will notice that all of you had some aspect of this block housing correct. So, like, it's funny because,
So
like,
close.
With
there's-
our powers combined.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. That's why I was thinking, I'm like, man, I should have had you all working on it, because that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
So
we
if you
would've
come
had
in
Harold's
here-
beams.
Nice.
Yeah,
The cross
it
beams
is-
is something I missed.
Yep.
That's so
Yep.
good.
It is 4 individual 3-room houses,
Okay.
each with its own
Sure.
sort of workbench and person, with the exception of one. I don't think
Except
this
for
one has
this one
a
didn't
workbench.
have, yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
We were.
Yep.
Oh, Fischer. Okay.
Fischer.
Yeah. So that's what
Mhm,
the barrel is.
Yeah,
mhm,
Okay.
fisherman. The only one that we
Oh,
were
barrel,
missing
yeah.
what was it? A Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fletcher tables didn't exist.
See, it's funny because I interpreted the houses the opposite way. For me, I
Yeah.
figured this is where the wealthy people lived in their individual houses, and this was more like apartments, like high density housing.
And
Oh, no.
let me tell you why I decided to have these both as lower class housing. One, it's got the cobblestone foundation, whereas the
Yep.
rest have the nicer foundations.
Mhm.
It is just the packed mud, no mud brick, just packed mud, and then of course the thatch roofs. That's sort of how I separated them. As we come down this way, we will come into the marketplace, which a lot of you got
Nice.
correct with your assumptions. But go ahead and walk around. You'll see I've got the fisherman has their booth here with all of the barrels for all their fish. I've got the shepherd here with their wool and their dyes and
Yeah.
little
the
products they
middle
can
was
do with
the
that.
Grates above for
Yep.
grilling meats. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I
think
got
that
the
one.
I got the
anvil.
cooked
So
meats right.
that's what the
Nice.
iron was. Is the
Iron
anvil.
block was the anvil, but
Okay.
you got the
did.
grindstone
Nice.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, you got the grindstone
Oh,
right.
nice.
Oh, cooked,
And then,
cooked food, yeah.
yep,
Yep,
Oda definitely got
pottery.
the banner thing right. That was just, I mean,
Yeah,
that
Oda
you
got the
would have
meats
never
right.
known. You would have
The
never known
bows
the
were.
banners, but yeah.
Yep.
And then of course, yep, Potter here with the pithoi
Okay,
and the
so the
little
Fletcher was
flower
in
pots.
here. Okay, cool.
Very cool.
And then an empty stall, just one that
Just
is
an
not
empty one.
occupied.
Just enough.
Yeah, there was just the one
Okay.
charcoal in there where Oda's standing.
And the charcoal, of course, was the ceiling.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
These were standing up as a support. Ah, come on.
Yep, they were standing up as a support. This is your stone cutter. This is your mason.
There's there's the tool right here. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
That's nice. I like that. I
But
like all the
a lot of
additional-
you got a couple things wrong, which is this.
Oh, stairs going up.
These were
Yep.
stairs, not okay.
Oh, they were stairs,
Oh,
okay.
it
With the
was. Look
chimney,
at
yeah.
this.
for second level.
Oh,
Mhm.
and a
This
little
is a
balcony.
chimney.
I like
This is
it.
a chimney.
Nice.
This is-
I
like
wondered
that.
if they weren't stairs.
Yep. So yeah, this is your mason. So they've got it's a house and a business in one.
Yep.
So very very Skyrim. So yeah. And then over here we have our leather worker, which you do have the animal stalls
Okay.
Nice.
with the hay bales out front.
Yep.
All of the stuff that they are selling. If you follow me back here, we have the living quarters for the leather worker.
Oh boy! So
Oh,
all these
okay.
buildings were like the workshop and
Yep.
then the house.
That's very
Mhm.
Oh,
common.
and he's got a
Wow.
cauldron above the fires. Okay, and it was open roof, open
Okay,
roof fires.
cauldron.
I kept debating on that. I kept going, I could just take out these things and just have it open to the air because that would have been a little bit more old,
Yep.
like ancient. Like I should have done that.
Yep.
I like
And then across the street from that is the toolsmith.
Ooh.
I like your.
So
I like the
your window
front, like-
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the
Mhm.
look of that a lot.
Cool.
Nice.
Smith.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
This
And
out.
Oda, your
Oh,
interpretation of the bricks fallen was yep, it was
Yep.
correct.
And then yep,
Yeah.
another second
yeah.
story.
So these are all just bricks. So the mud here was degraded bricks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Graded bricks.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, I got that
Degraded
right.
bricks.
And then
And
this
also
staircase
some of
was
the
still enough stairs.
Some of the stairs were
Nice.
also degraded mud bricks. So like
Mhm.
it would fall and it would have because if you look at the mud brick stairs, it's like individual bricks, and so that's
Yep.
that's why I did that way. Mhm.
Nice.
Mhm. Yep. So this is sort of the middle class area because it's got the deep slate foundations with the mud brick above it, and it is the buildings are the businesses and the housing all in one. So this is sort of the middle class here.
So then this is the armor smith.
That's
of
the
course.
armorer. Yep. This is the
Yep.
armorer. So
Okay,
lots
the
of
part
armor.
that we've been
Back
dying
here.
dying to see.
Hmm
Okay, yeah. Here's
was
the second
upstairs.
floor with the stupid furnace.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not expect this furnace to give you guys so much trouble. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. They're going to realize
Mm-mm.
it's the second floor. Apparently not. Sorry.
No.
I
Well,
kind
let's
of thought
see.
it might have been, but like I was like, I'm not seeing any other evidence for
One.
that.
1, 2, 3.
But yeah, of course.
Well, but
if
the
second
the
floor
furnace is up
wood, it
higher
would've been
than-
gone.
In the original though.
The
isn't
But it
furnace
would have
is up
fallen.
higher.
It
would've
would have fallen
yeah.
though
Would've
because it
fallen,
was
yeah.
a wood floor.
Right,
Mhm.
because
Okay.
as this caved in, some wall pieces landed here,
Yep.
here,
Yep.
and then the furnace
I
came
gotcha,
down.
okay.
on
And then
the
top of
furnace
them.
came in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, the second story being made out of wood, that makes so much more sense.
Mhm.
That they could put a second
Over
floor in
here
there.
around the side, so these are the only two professions that I had that were not actual Minecraft professions. The rest
Ooh,
are
I
all
like
Minecraft
the
professions.
little gate. This feels very like a
Yeah.
little Hobbit home kind of to me, like a
Oh, yeah,
little
it's kinda
little
cute.
low
So-
walls with the gates. I love
Yep,
it.
have their little
The-
individual gardens.
The cartographer is, well, I guess that kind of is a
there's a
profession.
cartographer.
It's a
Sure it is.
cartographer. But
Mhm.
this is more. You'll see here in a bit. It's more of an administration thing. So this is their house, along with their little workstation that they can do from home, and same with this one. The librarian, I'm actually calling an archivist instead of a
Nice.
librarian. And you'll see why here in just a second. They're both basically tax collectors
Ah.
Nice. Okay.
because this building is an administration building.
Oh,
Ah.
okay. I was a little different.
So stairs going up to the second story, but
Interesting.
you
Is that a
also
second
have
story too, and this
a
is what
first story. Yeah. Oh yeah. So
it was.
yep. And if you look when you come up
Yep.
here, here's all the storage for the pithoi that fell down.
Mm-hmm.
So all those
Ooh.
those sherds and everything are from that.
Oh, and then
Mhm.
the stairs
Seats.
would have fallen
Yep.
down
This
below.
is way more
That's
beautiful
why
than anything
Yep.
I would have come across.
these basalt pillars were driving me bonkers.
Yeah,
why
and
there's
this
only
makes
two?
so
Why
much
there's
because there was only two.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, this makes
Ah,
so much sense.
That it was a balcony area. That's amazing.
Mhm, mhm.
This
This
is
is
so good.
brilliant.
This looks so good. But
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Okay, that was a roof structure. That's actually built into the roof. Oh, look,
Yep.
the lichen. I kind of got that
Yay.
right-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what was the lichen?
I
yeah,
kind of
so it
did
is
it
a
like
border,
a
yeah,
border
like you
around
did
Yeah,
that.
another little administration built like room.
Mm-hmm. So when you
Nice.
come, if you come down here on the first floor, you've got this is the tax collector. So this is all the
okay.
stuff that they bring in to for him to log
To
in
pay
where
for
it's
the
coming from,
taxes,
right?
Yep.
And the first room is the archivist, who is also keeping all the records. And there's a little
Records of
closet
all
down
this
here.
stuff.
But
little
all of the
bookshelves.
sherds you were finding in here were from that second story, because all those sherds were actually on top of this
Yeah.
There's just,
that
Ah.
diorite. Mm-hmm.
let me see. Let me come back up in here.
Interesting.
Oh, look, yeah, it's all stuff being stored up here. Look at this.
Mm-hmm. 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 So you got the stuff down there.
just like you did in your Greek palace, like kind of inset in the floor.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yep.
That's so
Mhm.
nice.
Mm-hmm. And
Of
then
course, they were all full of olive oil in that one.
well, yeah, and wine. Yeah. So the windows are really hard to get. I did not
Yeah.
expect any of you to get the windows
Yeah,
correct. And there's really no way to know how
Mhm.
how that is. But yeah.
Yeah, you had there was the tiny bit of a clue with the way the walls had fallen into that
Mhm.
other area, and
Mhm.
I kept thinking, I'm like, should I make these windows taller? And that was about it.
What
Yep.
was the coal?
Coal was the torches.
Coal
the
was the
torches, okay.
torches. Interesting.
Oh,
okay.
the torches. Okay.
Yep. I
Yeah.
tried to keep it where it was charcoal, was burnt remnants of the roof, or burnt
Mhm.
organics like the throne here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the coal itself was torches or fire, or like a campfire.
Nice.
Mhm.
So cool.
So then if you come out here, this door leads to the chieftains, or the chief's residence. So this is the
Alright.
chief.
Oh, okay.
I was calling them the royals.
So this is like a
Mhm.
little
Yep.
liminal zone here.
Yep.
I like this.
Yep,
It
little
is,
liminal zone. Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
So the
Yeah,
funny
that's
thing
right.
is that there's no real furniture in here, because I decided that when I was building this, that this was still under construction when whatever happened.
Ah,
So I wanted to see if
fireplace,
any
and
of you
that
would.
makes-
Yeah.
Yeah, that
the
fireplace,
this
that kept
wall was-
looking at
the
that
the way
going,
this
man.
wall was built had me so confused.
Yep.
Oh, that's
Yep.
so good.
And then of course you've got this in here, which is what you think it is.
Yeah.
Standard Minecraft brewing station,
Uh-huh.
Nice.
complete with water. So.
Oh, so Oda was right about the second story here.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Odo was right about the second
And
story.
the floor is the diorite. Nice. Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Nice. Good job.
Ooh, I like
And then
the-
there's a
I like
balcony
it.
here, and I remember somebody mentioning a possible balcony.
I just mentioned it like earlier, like
Oh.
literally like last night I was laying in bed going, that could have been a balcony.
Yep. And of
First
course-
time the whole time. I hadn't
That's
thought of
so
it until
awesome.
then.
Yeah. And then, of course,
Ah!
the garden is out here, and it is a
love-
walled garden that is not accessible by the common folk. It
Mhm.
is
Walled
all...
garden, 3
Ah.
high. Yep, you had
It
to
was
come
the
in through
3
this
high.
door.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Nice.
And the
Had the
acacia trees growing in the
trees.
garden.
Yay, we got
Nice.
something right.
Mhm.
We all got the acacia trees. That's awesome.
Yep.
We all got that there was a garden or some place to
Mhm,
grow
mhm.
things, so that was good.
Yeah.
And then what was
Now
this
the
thing on the
floor,
other
the
side?
floor blocks here indicate double doors. That's why I put double doors here. To
Mhm.
see dirt, and then floor,
Yeah.
floor.
See, I did not even find that to know that there was a door there.
Mhm.
See, because I made sure I was like looking up underneath all the stuff
Yeah.
to see like
Every
are there
single
floor
one.
pieces that got covered up, or is this where the
Yep.
wall was?
And then, of course, the meeting place,
Okay.
Oh yeah.
which Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, nice.
See, I
Oda
should've
got that
left
one
it.
the
I
closest.
should have left
Oda
it.
really did.
Yeah.
Nice. I did square off these bricks though, just
Mhm.
because
Yep,
only
yep.
some of them were broken. Like I assumed they were just broken, so I
Yeah,
Right.
see, I left those as stairs because I
Yeah.
had a feeling you'd want to go like have an inset, but you guys had
Nice.
that portion right with the seating.
Yep. And then
I
one thing I
debated.
do want to point out is that all of the lampposts on the main road here are stone, but the ones that are off of the main road are wood.
Wood, yep, because we
Mhm.
didn't
With-
find
with
any
only
lamppost
torches.
pieces.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Ah.
yeah, and there was one over
Mhm.
here. This actually, because
Yep.
I was like, why is there just one sitting in the middle of
Yep.
nowhere here?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So your roads actually do stop here. See, I carried them forward all the
Mhm.
way to the end, like the
Yep.
wide part of the road here.
Yep.
You do have a
Yeah,
stopping
I
point.
started to take it out, and then I'm like, no, I'm adding things that aren't there. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was interpreting that as like lower class area, middle or upper class area, so they'd have better roads. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, see, where I was just like everyone lived down there or in the palace, and I figured all of these were just like the workshops and
Mhm.
stuff, not that people actually lived here.
Yep. So yeah, all of you got some things like dead on correct, and a lot of you, got things that were not right. But there was a like there wasn't like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a definite like, oh, this person got all of this correct and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Everyone got something correct over someone else.
Mhm.
And I was telling Oda earlier, because when I finished up his grading, I was going over the numbers and the scores, the numbers, right? Out of 80 points, the spread is only 3 points across.
Wow.
That's awesome.
A 59.
Could
a
you
60,
imagine if
and
we
a
had done
62.
one together? Like we would have like really knocked it out
We
of the
would've
park.
killed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Except
Well,
for
if
that
you
building there
chose.
with the second floor. Like we
Yeah.
all kind of
I never
failed
would
on
have
this.
gotten that.
Yeah.
I failed on thinking about verticality. Like that was my.
I don't
It makes
remember there
sense though
being
because
stairs here, though.
because the pillar shows the height being like the
Yeah.
same as the height of this building over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the roof did come out over the pillars. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. And sometimes
Yep.
some things don't make it,
Yeah.
Sometimes things get
Yeah.
stolen, sometimes
Yeah, because there
just-
was no roof material
Mm-mm.
outside of this wall.
Nope.
There was no roof material where the pillars are.
Yeah, nor
Right.
nor any
Yeah.
overhang. But this,
Mhm.
I mean, I think
Yep.
this looks better with the
Mhm.
overhang. I kept going back
Yeah.
and forth on that, where I was like, I
Mhm.
want some of this
Yep,
to have
me
an
too.
overhang, but I didn't see
Yeah.
anything out there. So I was like, I can't interpret based on what's not there
Yeah.
or what I want to see.
Yep, exactly.
I'm proud we all found every single bit. Like we found all of the buildings and.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, the extent of excavation, yeah, everybody got that pretty much spot on.
Nice.
Okay, so then if you want to know who the winner was, go ahead and meet me in the admin building.
This is admin or is this a church?
No church. Nope. This is where the chieftain would have sat or something like that. So
Okay, so this is like his
The-
royal
the
okay,
royal
it's more like a
administrator?
royal,
Yep.
yeah,
royal administrator.
that's right. That's right. Ooh, and it looks good in shaders too.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bet.
Nice. Okay. Oh, and I can actually see my shadow through that window. That's kind of cool. Okay. So, This was actually quite a surprise. All of you had something that sort of sets yourself up to be, having some sort of advantage over the other. Oda's worked with me on stuff before, so he kind of had an insight to how I thought about things. Harold has been an archaeologist, so he had the archaeological side. And then Millie was coming in completely fresh, so she had no preconceptions of what to expect. So everyone sort of had their own advantages, and then everyone had some disadvantages. Both Millie and Oda are not archaeologists versus Harold's being an archaeologist. However, you all have played the game, and so maybe you thought, oh, this is, not going to be like the game, even though I did make a lot of it to be sort of the way it goes. So, it was a 3-point spread, 59 points being the lowest, 60 points being the second highest, and 62 points being the highest.
That's awesome.
And
Wow.
that and we're talking about the difference between these is basically one or two very small things that would have set you apart. Now, the way I did the scoring is that I took the maximum amount of points, and everything that I saw that was off, I took 1 point away. So with that being said, like, if you had just done one little thing different, maybe that would have put you up. So there's it's crazy how close it was.
Nice.
So I will give you the lowest points first, and then first place. And then that ought to tell you who won. So at the lowest points, at 59 points out of 80, was Oda.
Oh!
Which is surprising, because if you look at the overall settlement from above, it actually looks a lot like this settlement from above. It was just, what it came down to was just a couple of things in the interpretation, really, is all that it was. So you played it safe, and still 59 out of 80 is still an excellent score.
Awesome. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But you also had the most accurate meeting room, right? Or that meeting area.
That is
was
true.
the most accurate out of all three of us.
He absolutely nailed the meeting
100%.
Room. Which is funny, because the lower class individual housing, Millie absolutely nailed.
Yeah.
And then the marketplace, Harold nailed with that grindstone that nobody else got.
Yeah.
So there was some little things here and there that really got him. So at 62 points, barely eking everyone else out, in a weird surprise turn of events, is Millie.
Yeah, go Millie!
So, which is wild, because when you walk through her settlement, it doesn't look like this, but with all the criteria, of course, being layout, materials, footprint, and interpretation. It just ends up that she just kind of squeaks in there at 2 points.
That's awesome. Good
2
job,
points
Millie.
above. So,
Woo!
Thank you.
so yeah, so there we are.
Woo.
So there we have it.
Yeah, as a Minecraft village, I actually think Millie's does look the best. Like from a Minecraft perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think
That's
it's
what I was
great.
going at.
Yep.
However, if I
totally,
went to it,
I totally missed the idea of like each one of those buildings was a Minecraft villager profession living there doing that work. I totally missed that.
I wish I had remembered the grindstone, and then that would have made so much sense. And then
well, and if I went to this place in the real world as an archaeological site, I would expect to see what Harold had. So so I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, this is an archaeological site, all right. So
like, I love the quaint buildings and everything.
But I think Harold, you pretty much nailed materials, like 100%. Where other people missed it, you nailed materials 100%.
Yeah, I missed the beams, like just
I
that
like
it was in an order.
Beams.
And
That's brilliant.
Yep, the beams, that one. Yeah, I was hoping laying those charcoal out in lines would
I didn't even catch that. I just figured it was just roof material that fell and burned. Like I didn't even see any pattern.
Now I'm gonna go look back at my other video of when I looked at those. I'm like, did it actually look like it? Did it? My problem was I didn't set them exactly in the place they were. I kind of set them over to the side, and that was where I fell. Like I didn't get that right. But...
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So
nice. This was a lot of fun, Daskalos.
Yeah, this was
if
great.
you want to challenge us again, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I will keep that in mind.
But together, I want to do one together because that would
yeah, that
cool
would be an
to do,
interesting
a collab thing where we all just have at it.
yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah. So for you, whoops, I'm still sitting down. All right. So yeah, so here is your prizes.
Ooh, nice.
Don't
have a bronze medal, did you?
Yeah,
Nice.
No, I don't have a bronze medal. Don't spend
that
them
was
all
the
in
first
one
time
place.
I picked up a diamond the entire time.
You got an advancement.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a bunch of fun. I appreciate
Good. Yeah.
all the work that you put into doing this.